Okay, everybody. Let's bring this committee. Let's come to order. Can you hear me? Got to get closer to the mic. Okay. All right. We'll bring this May 5th Joint Transportation Committee meeting to order. Just for the committee's information, the co-chairman and I have decided we're going to try to march through our agenda very quickly. We've informed the participants that will be briefing us that we're going to try to increase the speed of their delivery, and we'll try to reduce the amount of comments that we have. The intent is to try to get us out of here by noon if we can, and if we're not, we're going to work through lunch. So with that, I think we'll hit our first. Oh yeah, roll call. Got to make sure who's here, right?
This is for Joint Transportation, Highways, and Military Affairs Committee, Tuesday, May 5th, 2026. Senator Anderson. Senator Barlow. Senator Cooper.
Excused.
Senator Kolb. Representative Filer.
Here.
Representative Geringer.
Here.
Representative Larson.
Here.
Representative McCann. Representative Nicholas.
Excuse.
Representative Posey. Representative Tarver.
Excused.
Representative Wiley.
Here.
Co-Chairman Brown.
Here.
Chairman Pappas.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Okay, well, thank you. So our first topic is the Wyoming Military Department update. We do have the department joining us via Zoom this morning. They didn't want to get their people stranded here in Casper, so they're testifying from Cheyenne. So General Porter should be online. General, are you there?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, here, and then we can hear you and see you loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. You have the screen, I guess.
Hey, thank you, sir. Hey, for the record, my name is Major General Greg Porter, and I serve as the Adjutant General for the state of Wyoming. With me in the room, just so that you're all tracking, we have Brigadier General Michelle Mulberry, our Director of the Joint Staff, Mr. Tim Shepard, our Vets Commission Director, Command Sergeant Major Thad Eady, our Command Senior Enlisted Leader, our Legal Advisor, Lieutenant Colonel Eva Koski, our Strategic Communications Head, Mr. Kozlet, and our Exec Heidi Valdez. And sir, we're going to take you to heart, and I will get right to it if we could go to the next slide. Sir, I thought I would give just a little bit on Epic Ferry. I won't spend too much time because you have the slides. Quickly go through wildfire season outlook. I don't think we'll surprise you there. Some real quick military updates, and then get right into the interim topics. Next slide, please. Hey, sir, just wanted to kind of give you a sense of Operation Epic Fury. This is a little dated. It's over 2 weeks old. I believe everybody's sort of tracking what's going on in the Straits of Hormuz right now. Obviously, a blockade going on. We did have some destroyers take some fires from the Iranian Republican Guard, some fast boats and that sort of thing. But so it's starting to heat up a little bit more as the president attempts to open up the straits to more commerce, and we'll see where this thing goes. Really, my main point of this slide is the next one, which is just to highlight to you the amount of National Guard that are participating in Epic Fury. We can go to the next slide. As you take a look at the National Guard over the past several conflicts between Epic Fury, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom, and Desert Storm, the Guard continues to be a significant role. If not to get into the classified areas of this, but we have a tremendous amount of aircraft over there. Anywhere between 30 and 40% of the Air Force formations over there are made up of the National Guard. If we think about what we're doing in targeting and target generation and that sort of thing, a good chunk of all those targets are being produced by National Guard formations. Our Air Guard is significantly involved in terms of our United States Air Guard is significantly involved. And your Wyoming Air Guard, we do have some folks participating. I'll keep that, specific information out of off the public record right now, but I will tell you we do have folks participating as well. It's a it just, I think, goes to the point that the nation cannot conduct large-scale combat operations without its National Guard. And the team, you'd be so very proud if you could see the intel that we get in the intelligence briefings of the effects that our team is having over there would definitely make you proud. Let me stop real quick and see if there are any questions about this one. If not, I'll continue to drive forward.
Committee? Doesn't look like anything. General Porter, continue.
All right, we'll go to the next slide. Just want to give a quick highlight to the wildfire season outlook, and I primarily direct you to the lower left-hand column. If you look in 2024, which is our second worst fire season, we were about a 54% at drought conditions in mid-March. Our snowpack, though, was about 97%. If you look at what we're looking at for 2026, our drought, we're at about 96%, and our snowpack is down by, is only at 79%, even worse than we were in 24. So we're really anticipating a fairly robust fire season this year. MAFs, they haven't started rolling yet. We probably, they usually start deploying after July 4th, in that middle of July. I can anticipate an earlier mobilization of the mobile airborne firefighting system this year. We'll see where that goes. We have a meeting on Thursday, day after tomorrow, with the state forester to once again tie up any last minute things we've got to do for coordination within the state for our firefighting efforts this year. I don't know if this moisture, although we need it, I'm not sure it's going to be helpful if it kicks off a bunch of undergrowth and green that's going to turn brown on us later. So we'll see. It's sort of a mixed blessing right now. It's good for our lawns, but it may produce a lot of fuel as we get later into the summer. But we are tracking it. We have the Dozer Academy going on at Camp Guernsey right now. The fire breaks around the perimeter of Camp Guernsey are in place. They've done all the burning for our training areas, and so I believe Camp Guernsey is in pretty good stead for preventing fire this year. We don't have a lot of activity, and certainly not a lot of fire producing activity, but it doesn't take much out there to get that going. But I think we're going to get ready. I'll have a little bit more information probably after Thursday's meeting with forestry, but we're set and as ready to go as I think we can at this point. If I have no questions, let me just quickly run through the updates. I won't take long. Air Guard, you can just see that we've got folks all over the place out there. It is a reminder that our wing will deploy this fall over into CENTCOM. So we'll send 4 tails that way. We'll see if that holds with everything going on with Epic Fury. They have been pulling some formations to the left a little bit. I haven't seen that happen for us. But as you recall, we're going as a deployable combat wing. We're going to take some F-16s, 12 F-16s from Toledo, Ohio, and our C-130s, and we'll deploy together as a group. And so we'll just see how that shakes out as it's going. Right now, though, we can expect a fall deployment, and that looks pretty good. On the Army Guard side, really everybody's still recovering from their deployment. The launchers, our HIMARS launchers, are coming out of reset right now. We're starting to get those back into the state after they were refurbished after their deployment. Wildland Fire Academy is going on starting in June. We do have some force structure changes happening. We're going to gain a C battery back, which is another 6 launchers is going to come back to all rocket battalions in the Army inventory, in the National Guard inventory. So we'll start recruiting for that here this fall in 27 with the expectation that we'll stand that unit up, C battery, in the fall of 28. I do have the decision brief to my level on where we're going to station this. I have yet to provide that information to the governor. As soon as I do, I expect I can brief you in August on where we're going to station the new force structure in Wyoming. Wyoming Army Guard also did just receive a small wildland firefighting formation that will start getting this next fall. It's 9 personnel, but 3 of them are full-time. We'll probably station them in Guernsey, and they do have some equipment that will be beneficial to us. So that was a win, and that was a good thing for us. There's a slide there that talks innovative readiness training, IRT. That's our engineers. Our 307th Engineer Detachment is really going to do some help with Habitat for Humanity here in Cheyenne. So 2 weekends from now, we'll assist with building a couple of structures for homes here in Cheyenne for Habitat. So a good deal. And then the whole formation is getting ready for the 250th right now. The Joint Force Headquarters will be drilling the 3rd and 4th of July. We intend to participate in the parades and displays here at the Capitol. We're working through the flyovers right now to go around the state to celebrate the 250th and really getting ready for a great celebration for the 250th. Just a quick update on our domestic commissions that we have going with ICE right now. 1,151 deportations. 49 of those were individuals who had felonies and greater issues than that. So the team is still doing a great job supporting ICE. We expect this mission will continue into the next fiscal year. We're tracking that's going to be the case, and so far no issues. ICE has been great. The coordination has been good, and our teams have been doing a great job. We were directed by the Secretary of War to establish the National Guard Reaction Force, 200 trained Wyoming National Guardsmen. That training was conducted at the end of January, first part of February. We got them all certified, and they are ready to go should the nation or the state needs them. As I mentioned briefly, modular airborne firefighting system, we do anticipate, even though we're going to deploy in October, we do anticipate doing our normal rotations with the mass mission. And as yet, like I said, I don't have a start date for that, but I expect it to be earlier this year than last year. And then our UH-60s, they're ready to go. They completed their bucket training, and we're ready to do search and rescue and medevac primarily, I think, for the fire season. And if an emergency were to happen, we do have the Bambi buckets, and we can support structure protection and initial attack very well. Next slide, please.
General, could I ask a
Yes, sir.
question on that National Guard Reaction Force? You said they're being trained. What are they being trained for?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, great question. So initially, they were all trained for civil disobedience to be able to respond to the governor in the state if they needed it, or to even cross state lines for another governor. My particular focus and Governor Gordon's focus is a little bit different from that. We're really more interested in less about that mission as about critical infrastructure protection. What do we do if a tornado were to come through a small community and really render it incapable of functioning? How do we help do cordon with local law enforcement to prevent looting? What happens if we have to evacuate for fires, that sort of thing? That's where I see our National Guard Response Force going in Wyoming to support the state, less so than what the mandate that came down from the Secretary of War to be prepared to do civil disturbance type of things. I really think that mission started last October. The conditions have just changed so much in the U.S. since then that I don't really see, at least as far as I can see right now, that being something that we're likely to do. I'm really more focused on the missions that I talked to you about. Does that help, sir?
Yeah, thank you. I'm assuming that these 200 are additional duty requirements and not a unit that you're standing up separately.
Mr. Chairman, great point. That is correct. We do have two full-time folks that sort of manage the pay and admin for that, but all of those folks are traditional guardsmen. This year, they're all Army, based on the deployment of the Air National Guard. So that eventually will change when the Air gets back from their deployments. We'll incorporate an Air element to them, but right now it's all Army personnel, and it's an additional duty.
Thank you, General.
Yep, thanks, sir. Let's see, next slide, please. Yep. Just
Oh,
a real quick.
General, we do
Yes,
have
sir.
another question.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. General, that to bring more, maybe getting a little weeds more on these reaction force. You said they're all Army Guardsmen. What type of orders were they on? What title?
Mr. Chairman, and I'm sorry, I couldn't tell who I was speaking to.
Representative Filer.
Representative Fowler, they were Title 32. They were in a Title 32 status.
Okay. And then also follow up, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
General, so it was, because it kind of makes me think about this because all of our National Guardsmen are trained just like anybody else. But what is the career field that most of those folks are in? What MOS were they prior to doing this reaction force?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, to Representative Filer, they're all across all our MOSs. We didn't particularly take a specific unit this time to take them out of their training. We basically took volunteers from across the force to do it. So we had maintenance folks, we had infantry folks, we had artillery folks, we had medics, we had you name it across. We had engineers. We had a little bit of everybody doing that mission. Over.
Okay, and Mr. Chairman, one more.
Please.
Yeah, in general, and with that reaction force, that's mostly going to be just for stateside. So that training was just for stateside. So whatever state we want to deploy them to for whatever reason.
Mr. Chairman, back to Representative Filer, the way that the tasking came down to us was billed as support for the governors to have. So and that could be one of two ways. One is that the governor of the state, in this case, Governor Gordon, could use it within his state to do what he needed to get done. Or if another governor from another state asked, they could deploy and go do something for another state. So for the National Guard Response Force, the whole thought behind it was state-owned, state-directed between governors to do NGRF stuff. That was how that particular one was built. Does that make sense? Over.
Yes, thanks, General. Thanks.
Yeah, I assume they would go to another state under EMAC, right?
Absolutely, sir. Under EMAC, and depending on if it was a declared emergency, they could still go in a Title 32 status, but they could also go in that state's state active duty status as well.
Okay, thank you. Continue, General.
All right, so we're on slide 2 of 3, just the Air Guard projects. I won't spend too much time on those as we've talked about them. Driving along pretty good on those on the Army Guard projects. Doing a lot of modernization for our civil support team and the Raper. So nothing too significant on that one. I'll continue to drive. Next slide, please. Camp Guernsey continues to, we've put a lot of resources there. Fire station will be complete this summer and we'll complete move-in. We had some tails, furniture and that sort of thing that we had to get policed up. That was caused a delay with the government shutdown that kept us from getting that done, but we're good to go there and we'll move in completely this summer. We are starting to take requests for proposals for a new set of barracks. The same is true for our entry control point. And right now our Camp Guernsey headquarters building is on an unfunded priority list. I don't have a status of that yet, but I think it looks pretty good. And we'll see where we go on where we see where that shakes out. Just some good news stories. Hey, listen, we really had a world-class reintegration of our soldiers when they came back from the deployment. Lieutenant Colonel Stacy Nation, who is our director of psychological support on the traditional side, really did an outstanding job of interviewing all of our soldiers and, more importantly, following up and connecting them to help. And so such a good job that she's going to actually present on what the team did on the reintegration. Not on the slide, but I will tell you the same thing. The Air just did their pre-deployment yellow ribbon ceremony and actions, which is really providing all the airmen all the updates on what their benefits are, the orders, all the things that happen on deployment. And that was probably one of the best ones I've ever seen as well for the Air Guard and on the yellow ribbon side. So the team is really doing a great job taking care of our soldiers and airmen. Back to the Army side again, Best Warrior competition just completed. You may remember that we've had some national winners. 2 years ago, we had or 3 years ago, we had the NCO of the year. Right after that, we had the enlisted member of the year that was the best warrior across the entire National Guard. And so this year starts with our first competition, and Sergeant Stockton, who is a member of our C company, our infantry company, but lives here in Cheyenne, was the NCO of the year. And Specialist Montez, who is our Delta company, infantry company, also out of Cheyenne, was our enlisted soldier of the year. So they'll go on to compete now at the regional level. From the regions, they'll go to national and compete there, and then from the national, they'll go compete at the Army level. So we'll see how that goes. And like I said, we've been successful in the past. We'll see if we can achieve those heights again. All right. Really quickly, let me go to the next slide. And I just wanted to add a couple of things to put across to you. I wanted to start to describe the narrative to you in terms of our budgeting and defense budget right now. President's budget just dropped a couple of weeks ago, and there's a lot of talk of this $1.7 trillion budget that's out there. And I will just tell you that I think there's a narrative, there's a suspicion out there that $1.7 trillion is actually going to raise all boats in the Department of War. And that's not really going to be the case. I will tell you, particularly in full-time manning and our operations and maintenance accounts, we're actually starting to see less money in that. Most of the money you'll see in the 1.7 trillion is really for big ticket items, enhancement of ports, acquisition of more aircraft, ships, ammunition, Golden Dome, all those things that absolutely have to be done. Sentinel, as we here in Southeast Wyoming can see, costs a tremendous amount of money, and that's where most of it's going. What we're really seeing in terms of our operational and maintenance accounts is actually a drop. If the presidential budget were to be enacted today, our ops and maintenance would see about a 3.7% decrease over last year in terms of our ability to provide capability. So this is just our first shot at it. It's 2 weeks old. It's the presidential budget. It hasn't gone through markup yet on either the HASC or SASC. They're doing those hearings right now. But I just wanted to start the discussion now that the things that really make us ready as a National Guard to help both the state and our nation, we're still not getting a lot of money for those. And in often cases, we're getting less. What we're trying to describe in front of you here is the full-time manning. And that blue dot or that blue line that kind of continues to go down is measured against all the missions and operations that we have to do, that yellow line that continues to go up. And you can see as we started tracking from 22 to now, there just continues to be a widening gap. And frankly, chairman and members of the committee, you'll see this when I start talking about our interim topics a little bit. There's simply just not enough. We cannot continue as the Wyoming National Guard to do the same thing at the same level because we simply do not have the full-time resources and the money to do it. This is primarily on the Army side. Because of the shift to the Indo-PACOM fight, and they don't really think that the Army will play a huge role in that fight, at least it's in the division level. A lot of that money's now going Space Force, Navy, Air Force. So the Air Guard is largely static. They're doing pretty good, I would say, at least not as bad as the Army is the one that's taking the hit and really feeling the effects right now. So this graph is just an attempt to show you that ever widening gulf between full-time resources and the amount of missions that we have to do. If I could go to the next slide. This is just one example, and this comes out of our aviation support facility. If you look back in fiscal year 20, we had 42 full-time folks in our aviation facility. And the inspection that came and assessed us from outside of the state, we did really well, except for some life support systems where we were amber. The team continued to do a great job. As we look over time, though, and as we continue to experience the peace dividend, as we got out of the global war on terror, you can see in 23, the full-time manning has dropped to 38, and you can start to see the cracks form. And then finally in 26, we actually got red in an area and a bunch more amber with only 30 full-time folks to do the same amount of missions. This is indicative of what's happening basically across the force on the Army side. Missions continue to be static, the same, or even increase in the case of ice and potentially wildfires and that sort of thing. And our full-time manning that comes with it continues to decrease. So I just wanted to start that discussion with you and give you an understanding that when we're talking the big money of that $1.7 trillion, doesn't mean that all boats are going to rise. So I will pause there for a minute just to let that sink in and see if there are any questions that I can answer. Over.
Committee, any questions? Okay, we have one from Senator Kolb.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just could you explain petroleum readiness? What exactly does that mean? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, to Senator Kolb, that's an aviation term. So that's all the oils, lubricants, everything that goes into making the aircraft fly that has a petroleum base to it. All of it has to be documented, tracked, and kept track of, sir. So.
Okay.
It's an inspection item that the arms team uses, where it's the sort of the tagline at the top, and then there's a whole bunch of a list of things underneath it that fall into that.
Okay. All right, continue, General.
All right. Next slide is our first topic that we wanted to put. If you recall, the problem we were trying to solve is the mental health providers in Wyoming really do not accept TRICARE due to the low cost of reimbursement. Now, what we attempted to do was try to prove to see if that problem state was in fact accurate or not. We did a survey of our own force to say, hey, what's been your experience? We didn't get a lot of replies back. Our next step is that we really need to survey the mental health providers out there and actually ask the question of, hey, what's preventing you from being a member or for accepting TRICARE insurance? Is it cost? Is it the amount of paperwork that it takes to come through? And is it something else that we don't know of? The bottom line for this, sir, is given the time since we last met and now, I have simply not had the time to conduct the necessary data analysis to come up with a proposal for you for TRICARE mental health insurance. If the committee wishes it, we can continue to work this and over the next couple of months, and I can bring something to you in August with some legislation that might get after that. But I simply do not have enough data right now, given what's going on in the world, to prove the problem. Is that really the problem? So our recommendation right now is to table it, and then I will take guidance from the committee whether you want us to actually bring a bill in August. We'll continue to work with Eve and LSO to construct that to see if that's worth doing. But frankly, I've got a lot of work to do to prove that problem statement and come up with a solution. So I'm standing by for some questions on that. Over.
Thank you, General. I agree. If you're not ready to move, we won't be ready to move. I believe that if you do come back, we will have to have draft legislation at that time. So you'd have to not just come back with a survey, but we'd have to come back with something we could look at it and possibly work on. So we do have one question from Representative Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and General Porter. Prior to my question, I'm not quite sure how you went about soliciting a response from the mental health providers, but I might just suggest that you reach out to Director Johansson, the Department of Health, and see if they can help facilitate that a little bit and take a little bit of that, maybe make that a little easier for you, and would be happy to help with that. I think that this mental health issue is important. You talk about bringing a bill forth, but I don't know that I understand what it is the bill is supposed to do if we've not identified the problem.
Mr. Chairman, to Representative Larson, sir, all great points. I will start with this. We haven't surveyed mental health providers yet. That's a big deal to come together and do that from a government entity surveying all our mental health providers. There's a couple of hoop jumps that I need to go through to get permission to do that. So I haven't done that yet. We initially just tried to survey our own force to decide to really get, hey, what's the scope of the problem? Are you having the difficulties that anecdotally that we've been told about? What's really prevalent out there? And we didn't get a lot of response from our own folks about it. So that's what the problem is. What I would propose to do, if the committee is good with it, is we will do that survey with the mental health providers, continue to ask our own folks, hopefully have that done sometime in the June, July timeframe. And if the problem is there, if the problem is it's a cost issue, then we will work with LSO and come up with a bill that says, hey, would you do a subsidy to the mental health providers to get after that bill? If that's the problem. But right now, I can't even confirm to you that that's the main reason they don't accept it. And I just have not had the bandwidth to get after that problem. Over.
Okay, Senator Barlow?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So General Porter, maybe a broader comment is, seems TRICARE is often tied to Medicare, Medicaid. And so if we're going to get into this space, it's not just TRICARE that's probably potentially under reimbursing. It would be Medicaid, for which the state has a direct responsibility for as well. So while we may be talking about subsidizing a federal program, we also have a joint state federal program called Medicaid that I would argue is even a significant responsibility of the state of Wyoming as well. So start going down this road. There's not just one program that I think has to be actually taken into consideration. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, sir. Good point. Yeah, and I didn't even think about that. The precedent setting for that one. So it's a wicked problem for sure. Thanks, sir.
Yeah, and I do agree that it was Representative Larson that contacting the Department of Health and the director there would be a good first start. So, Senator Kolb.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. Has anyone contacted our federal delegation, our House and Senate representatives? Because this is obviously a federal issue. Just what information can you share with us? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
General?
And Mr. Chairman, to Senator Kolb, no, sir, we have not given the rise to the CODELs yet. As I says, I don't even think I can prove the problem statement yet, much less recommend a solution based on that. So early stages of this, and it may be that we'll have to wait another iteration before we can really address it. There's a lot of tentacles of this as you've brought up. Over.
Okay, yeah, I don't think we're ready for prime time. So, we do have another question. Representative Nicholas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General Porter, and as you conduct your investigation of this, I think it would be helpful for us that we get kind of a real fact specific types of care that we're talking about, the number of participants that are actually using the mental health care insurance, and the type of specific care that is being either denied or and where that occurs and under what medical conditions that occurs, and then piggyback that with it, like we just talked about, the Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement items, so that we can get a full picture of what the total costs and then all the number of potential participants is in numbers and all that kind of thing, so that we can assess it all at one time without having to kind of come back and ask you for more questions.
Yes, sir.
General?
Understood, sir. I think that's great advice. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Another question from Senator Barlow.
Mr. Chairman, just one more extension of the information that would be needed if we were going to continue with this is State of Wyoming through the Department of Health also provides community mental health. And most of the providers in that system have very specific programs for veterans. And I would argue active duty as well. So I think that would be through the Department of Health, something to understand better if they are maybe not a priority population, but certainly a generally served population under community mental health. So another factor to consider. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Barlow. Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General, just out of curiosity, as Senator Barlow was just talking there, we serve, especially in the Cheyenne area, it's a massive, massive amount of people on the TRICARE insurance option. And it's not just those members that are serving, it's their families too. And my suspicion is that this is actually a larger issue, and I'm going to suspect that this is actually those that are, the tentacles on that. It's not the policyholder themselves that are being denied, because they actually have that opportunity either on base and or seeking referrals fairly easily. It seems to me, just based off of this conversation, I really appreciate what Representative Nicholas stated. I recognize exactly where you're at. You've got just a few irons in the fire, and it doesn't seem like this one probably rises to the top of the priority list. I don't know that we have enough, Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure that we've got enough information here to even direct you to go get more information to even try to bring a bill back next meeting. I think this is something that we will probably need to ask you if this is an iron that this was your request, to be all honest with you. If this doesn't reach the level of priority for you to continue to push forward, I don't see any reason for this committee to direct you to do anything forward unless there is like you said, an issue that you can identify and you can actually factually back up.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that. This all started as sort of anecdotal information coming to us from the field of, hey, we're having issues with this. As we tried to go prove that or disprove that, really, I don't have enough data to be able to tell you that. And so I'm a little embarrassed. That we, as you point out, we brought this to you. I just don't have the bandwidth or the people right now to get after this. And my sense is that, at least so far, it does happen in onesies and twosies, but it's not something that's widespread yet. But I can't prove it one way or the other yet, sir.
Okay, committee, any further questions? Okay, seeing no more questions, General, we'll table this topic for the moment. Let you work on it between now and the August meeting. And let's move now to the Wyoming National Guard death benefit topic.
Sure. Next slide. It's actually sort of an offshoot of that, the state active duty pay disparity, what we were trying to get after there. Once again, and we've if the committee may recall, we've sort of dealt with this tangentially on a couple of things. But the bottom line is this: when our soldiers and airmen go participate on state active duty, if they're injured and that injury is such that it prevents their further career in the military, then it's just sort of tough luck for them. There's no, they're disqualified potentially from a pension. They're disqualified from any medical care from the military side, and it may cause them to cease to be able to serve. And so every time a soldier or airman does state active duty, there is a risk that it's potentially career ending on the military side. So as we took a look at that problem, is what were some ways for us to try to mitigate that? And the second piece of that was there something we could do that would help increase volunteerism? Because many of our particular aviators, when they volunteer to do state active duty and that sort of thing, it's less money. So that's what the problems we were trying to get after. You may recall one of the things we thought about was, is there a death benefit? There's no state death benefit if a soldier or airman were to perish on state active duty, but most about 80% or more of our soldiers and airmen do have the servicemen's group life insurance policy, which does pay out regardless of status. And so that was, that became not an issue. Most of our folks have the ability to have that insurance. So really, as we started to drive it down, the only issue that that looms out there is what do you do to fix a problem if the servicemen can't continue their service? And frankly, there really isn't much to be done. This committee approved several years ago our ability to continue with personal life insurance and personal health insurance while they're on state active duty, that we would reimburse them so they could keep it. So if a soldier, for example, were to come on for NGRF duty for 30 days, we have the ability to reimburse them so they can keep their personal private health and life insurance. So that's about the best we could do. There is not a fix aside from a huge expenditure to pay somebody, almost like, you know, a pro football player who gets an insurance policy if they get injured in training camp before they show up for the pros. That's the only thing we could come up with that could potentially rectify what happens if you can't serve anymore and you sacrifice your pension. So again, what that comes down to, sir, is we don't think that state active duty parity is something that we can solve right now. The solution is too costly and doesn't really exist in the insurance field at the moment. And right now we are going to table this and not continue to work this one unless the committee has another idea.
Okay, questions. So Representative Larson.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And General Porter, so as you're explaining that to me, I'm thinking you're looking for some sort of permanent disability if they're not able to come back in and participate as a guardsman or of some sort. And it seems like that's kind of the reason we have workers' compensation. And so I'm not sure where, you know, so our state agencies, particularly the Department of Transportation, pays into workers' compensation, and then those employees who suffer an injury could potentially get some sort of permanent disability. And there's, of course, some fees. And so walk me through that. Does the State National Guard elect to participate in workers' compensation or not?
Mr. Chairman, to Representative Larson, yes, sir. Workers' compensation is the way that they expect to fix injuries that happen while on state active duty. It doesn't do anything for injuries occurred not on the mission. Like if you slip on a bar of soap in off duty and you hurt yourself, workers' compensation doesn't get after that. Doesn't get after illness. And as we looked at workers' compensation, the process and the compensation for it isn't anywhere comparable to what you would get on the federal side if the same thing happened to you in a Title 32 status or an active duty status. So that's where it came down to is, like I said, there's just not a way to get us to that level. There is some protections, as you point out, on workers' comp, and that's what we use. And thank God, to date, we haven't had anybody that's been injured severely enough that it terminated their ability to serve in Wyoming's military. It did happen into Montana for some firefighters. That's where it first sort of came up about 8 years ago, where they had some folks injured in state active duty, and they couldn't they couldn't continue their career, and they couldn't draw their retirement. But workers' comp is a way. It's just not as satisfactory, I would say, as we want it to be.
Thank you. Well, I think that most employees that go through disability workers' compensation would agree at some level, but I think what you were implying is that there was nothing in place for disability when in reality it is. It's just maybe, and then you imply that workers' compensation pays for things that take place in the workplace, which that's correct. It doesn't take care of things that happen when they're off duty or when they're at home. That's correct too. And why would we provide for permanent disability on an accident or an illness that didn't take place on the job?
Mr. Chairman, to Representative Larson, particularly the illness side, it doesn't matter. If they're called to active duty and they're doing and they're doing the mission and they come down with a flu or COVID or some disease that would potentially inhibit their ability to serve, it's not covered. It's not there. And it's the same if they're, even though they're on mission, if it happens not, tossing sandbags, which was the mission, then they're not covered. So, like I said, sir, they're just, I think we're probably in violent agreement that there's not a problem here that I think we can solve. We'll continue to drive on with workers' comp as being our method to for the future. We just couldn't even it up with the federal side. And that's my recommendation is, hey, we just can't get there, and let's continue to drive on. We won't spend any more time on it. Does that make any more sense?
That seems like a logical approach. Okay, and committee, any further questions? Okay, I actually failed on the last topic to ask for public comment, so I'm going to ask for public comment on the last topic and this topic. There's no one online that's signed up to discuss either topic, so I don't think we have anyone online, and we got a huge crowd today. So unless the folks out in the nope, okay, great. So we'll move on to the next topic. General.
Hey, sir, the last one was really our National Guard firefighter death benefit equity, and not a huge population for the National Guard here. We have about 40 firefighters that serve both in the Army and the air side. As we took a look at it, the plan that they're under is different than what most other firefighters are here, what they call Plan B. On this, actually, Dave Swindell and the retirement folks kind of helped us through this. And what we seek to do really, sir, is even up, particularly on the line of duty death benefit. Right now, our National Guard soldiers and airmen don't have a death benefit as part of their plan. The public safety folks do. That's really what we would like to even up and true up is put them both under the same Plan B. Talking with, and I don't want to speak for him, I'll let him do that testimony, but talking with Mr. Swindell and the retirement folks, actuarially, it doesn't cost a lot of money to make that happen. We're only talking about 40 folks, but it has a tremendous benefit for our firefighters that if something bad were to happen, that they could experience the same retirement benefits that the Plan B folks do. So that's all that this is, sir, is to fold the Wyoming National Guard firefighters under the career firefighters Plan B retirement and just make them the same.
Committee, any questions? Representative Nicholas?
So I do have a question, because you said that 80% of the folks have a life insurance policy. Do all of the firefighters have a life insurance policy? And if so, what are those benefits and how do they correlate?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Nicholas, could you repeat the first part again? I'm sorry.
I'm just, earlier you mentioned that 80% of the active duty folks have life insurance. Mm-hmm. And death benefits are essentially a life insurance for that type of injuries. So what are those benefits? And how does that compare with what you're talking about here? And how do those two relate to each other or not?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, to Representative Nicholas, what we have here is, in order to be a firefighter on our state side, you do not have to necessarily be a member of the military. So you wouldn't be eligible to subscribe to the Servicemen's Group life insurance policy that our uniform wearing members get to wear. So that was the other piece of that, was to make sure that everybody had a death benefit as part of their employment.
So follow up, Mr. Chairman, how many are how do you break up the 40 or 45 individuals who are military or non-military on your firefighters crew?
Mr. Chairman, to Representative Nicholas, I probably will have to phone a friend. Let me just see if Mr. Kane has that data. I think it's about 50-50, sir, but I'm probably going to owe you an answer.
Thank you.
Okay, questions? Any further questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
we do have Mr. Kane online and I can admit him at this time.
please do.
Mr. Chairman, I did get a text from Mr. Kane. His service is a little spotty right now, so he may not be able to bring in. I think I just need to owe, I think I need to owe the committee and Representative Nicholas the details of that. Or
Okay, thank you. Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think, we'll go to public comment and whatnot. I think this seems like a pretty logical rationale. I've got a couple of these folks that live in my district that have been active duty firefighters, and then I've got two that I know of in my district that have served up there in the National Guard but are not active duty Guard members that are firefighters. And so I've actually heard them talking about this and actually been involved with this. I think this is a pretty logical step forward, but I do think Representative Nicholas's, I don't want to call them concerns, but questions about how these mesh together with what we have would be absolutely beneficial if we decide to move forward with the bill draft for our next meeting.
Questions? Committee, further questions? Okay.
Just to follow up on that, and
Yeah, follow up.
as
Go
it
ahead.
was presented in the information here, it's really the short termer that are substantially impacted. And so I think, but if you have 10 years of service, then it's not as big as an issue. So I think we have to flush that out if we choose to, when we address any type of statutory changes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, Representative Nicholas,
ahead,
could you say that again, sir? I missed part of it there. Just make sure that I'm getting what you want.
Closer to you, Mike.
I
Thank you,
heard
Mr.
short
Chairman.
term.
No, I was just mentioning that in the presentations that you presented to us, it talks about the greater risk is for the new personnel, because after you've been serving roughly 10 years, then you've got the current system actually provides some fairly good benefits to it. So how to marry those two, this concept with that program and how it works out, if we could have that addressed as well.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Further questions, committee? Okay. Hearing none, is there any public comment? I don't see. What's that?
We don't have Swindell on, do we?
I believe they are on their way up, and as we are running a little ahead of schedule, they might just be a little bit late.
We did have a letter, committee, in your packet from the director. Pardon?
Well, they were on their way out this morning, since we're about an hour ahead of schedule.
Okay. Committee, I was going to take public comment now since there were no more questions. Nothing from the room, no one online. So we'll close public comment. Committee, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that LSO direct LSO to work directly with the military department to draft a bill for consideration for our next meeting that would encompass the changes requested. And retirement, any interested parties, we'll say, just to make sure that we have a bill draft.
Okay. Okay, it's been moved by Representative Landon, seconded by Senator Barlow. Committee, any comments, questions? Seeing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Okay, the ayes have it, and we'll be looking forward to a bill draft next committee or next meeting. Yes, Representative Larson.
Could we just ask LSOs that are doing that to get with the retirement system and look at comparable, I don't know if vocation is the right word, but comparable coverage in the retirement system in the other state agencies, and see if this is an anomaly that we see in the Guard on this, being the short-term service people are being impacted unduly, or does that exist across the retirement system for similar vocations?
I think that's a logical request. I think probably the general could help us that he could reach out to the other Guard units across the nation and see what they're doing. General, would you do that for us and submit that information to the SO?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. If was that what Representative Larson, was he talking across the U.S. or was he talking about within the state?
Representative Larson, would you?
Yeah, I was talking within the state because it's within the state's retirement system. So are the other employees on the state retirement system that do similar type work, is this a similar problem or is this just unique to the Guard?
I see. Okay, I thought you were looking at what other guards were doing. Okay, understood. Thank you. So I would ask our LSO staff to please look into that. Okay, any further questions? Representative Filer.
Oh, wait. We got a motion? No. Okay. So we're just general discussion, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to bring us back a little bit to the TRICARE mental health insurance stuff. Right now, I know we want to, maybe there's you know, digging into the weeds on this might take a lot of time right now. There's a lot of other things that we have to do too. But I think right now mental health in Wyoming is a big, big deal. And it is a big deal with our military members. Whether we would decide to, you know, give directive to the general to proceed with this more to get more data, or I guess it's something that we can decide to do for ourselves too. We can just go ahead and start that process. But I just want to know if there'd be any appetite with you, Mr. Chairman, to, if I started digging into this myself and maybe bring something to the next meeting about this.
Regarding mental health in our veteran population?
Yes, yeah, and dealing with the TRICARE, you know, the insurance
Certainly.
problems and all that, would it?
Certainly, you're welcome to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Nicholas.
I'll make that motion. You can do it.
I don't think we need a motion. Yeah, go.
If I bring something, I just want.
Absolutely. Okay, any other questions on this? Okay, so that wraps up the military department, unless the general has any further final thoughts?
Hey, sir, nothing, I just wanted to cover back over again, just to piggyback where Representative Filer was. I think we're going to do a little more work on the TRICARE mental health insurance, and we'll have to make a call here sometime in the next 30 to 45 days, whether we have enough of a problem and a solution to bring to you and the rest of the committee in August. And so I think that's on us to do and figure that out, and then come back to you two chairs at least and say, I think there is, and this is our proposed solution, or no, there is not. State active duty pay disparity, we're not going to mess with it. It's going to be tabled and we're not going to work on it anymore. And then we are going to do a bill on the National Guard firefighting death benefits with the information that Representative Larson had asked about. So that's what I believe our way ahead is. If that's not correct, please kick me in bounds. Over.
Mr. Chairman.
Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General, also make sure we get the information that Representative Nicholas had talked to you about and asked you on. Make sure that we have that information available for us as we're coming into the firefighter discussion as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, General. Appreciate your testimony this morning.
Hey, thank you and the committee. You please drive safe out there. Be careful. It looks like it's we're only going to get more. So be safe, everyone. Thanks again and have a good summer.
Thank you. Okay, committee, we're on to our final topic today, Wyoming Underground Facility Notification Act. I believe who are you going to start this, Representative Larson? Does anyone need a break? We've only been going for an hour. Do we need a break, committee? Okay, let's keep going. Representative Larson.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This issue on the Wyoming Underground Notification Act really came to us from the Associated General Contractors last August at our meeting in Cheyenne, the night before they hosted members of the committee to a dinner, and at that time talked to us on issues that they would like us to consider. And one of them was the one-call system, and noted a number of things that excavators were struggling with. And so as I reached out and tried to educate myself on the One Call Act, it seemed to me as I went through that there were a number of anomalies and ambiguous language in the act. And so I reached out to LSO and reached out to the operators and to the excavators, reached out to the Attorney General's office, reached out to the Notification Center, and eventually reached out to the Public Service Commission. And without exception, everyone said the statutes are a little wonky, and the intent is understood, but the application is really needs some work. And so we've spent since last August working with operators and excavators, the Notification Center, in trying to hone this down to some specific issues that we would recommend to the committee that we consider in a bill. Didn't want to bring a bill draft to this meeting without having the conversation of helping you understand what we've identified in the act and helping you to understand what the act is about. So, Mr. Chairman, I think most, if not all of you, understand that the one-call system is really designed to prevent damages to underground utilities. In the statutes, we refer to them as underground. I forget now that I was going to tell you. I refer to them as underground facilities. And you have two players in the act. You have excavators and you have operators. Operators are those who own the underground utilities. Could be a communication cable, could be a sewer system, a water system, oil and gas, electrical lines, any of those buried utilities we see along the underground. Excavators, on the other hand, is not a profession as much as it is an action. So if you're Becky Larson and you're going to go out in your backyard and plant a tree and dig a hole down there, not knowing what public utilities might be in there, she becomes an excavator and should do a one call to make sure that she's not going to dig into the cable TV or the gas line that may only be a foot down coming into the yard. Or it could be Wiley Construction who's out there making a repair on an interstate line somewhere. So it's more the action rather than it is the occupation. And this act is really interesting because the legislature, when they put that together, they really tried to have equity in the responsibilities of the operator and the responsibilities of the excavator. And they're really intended to be similar. Excavators, you have responsibility to call the notification center, which was set up to administer this. And if you fail to do that, there's a civil fine, a statutory fine. If you damage a utility, there's a statutory penalty, but then the operator can also, you have liability for damages done, and they can come in with a civil action and sue you, but that's outside the statutory fine. If you're an operator and the excavator has called into the notification center saying they're going to be digging in an area, you have 48 hours, 2 business days to go out and locate and determine if you have a utility where they're going to be excavating. If you fail to do that, similarly, there are statutory penalties that you would have to pay. And if you locate in the wrong spot, there's statutory penalties. And for both excavators and operators, if you then continue to have those same problems, you can have additional penalties, and they can add up and be substantial. So as we go through that with that understanding, one of the things in your handouts, there's this key issues and analysis with that, and just kind of like to go through that, Mr. Chairman, if you'd allow me, and would be happy during the course of the conversation to take questions if that's permissible from the committee. We talk about the equity on for excavators and operators, and part of that is if an excavator is going to dig, he has to use reasonable care. And in the statutes in 3712-302, reasonable care includes hand digging or soft digging as necessary, hydrovac without, and it does so without defining when it's necessary. But then the excavator always has to bear the burden of proof that he used reasonable care. So if an excavator digs in an emergency situation, or if he has a ticket and everything's been done right, and he knows that there's a utility there, he has to use reasonable care, which is defined as soft digging or whatnot. And if he hits something, he bears the burden of saying that he bears the burden of proof that he used reasonable care. Now, if the operator didn't come out and locate, didn't do the locate, if that's not done within 48 hours, 2 business days, the excavator can start digging, and he has to use reasonable care. But yet he still has the burden of proof that reasonable care was used if damages took place. That seems like, regardless of how they proceeded or if the operator didn't do their due diligence, he's burdened with this burden of proof. And so the recommendation is that we change that statute to say when the operator failed to do their job, they bear the burden of proving the excavator didn't use reasonable care. And when the excavator's doing it, they bear the burden. So again, it's the equity thing. The next thing that we look at here is the role of the Attorney General. When we have these civil penalties, it's really unclear who then administers the civil penalties. In 3712-306, it says an action to recover a civil penalty can be brought by an operator, an excavator, an aggrieved party, a notification city, county attorney, district attorney, or the Attorney General. So as you read that statute, it seems to all be in the same place. And that doesn't clearly define further down in the civil penalties portion that the Attorney General then, upon receiving, what happens is if there's a violation, the notification center is notified. They send a report to the Attorney General. It doesn't tell the Attorney General what to do with that report, nor does it tell the Attorney General that they have a responsibility for levying the fines, but they do. Somebody's got to do it, and they do. But part of the problem is in the statutory penalties in that same area. For example, if you go to H, where it talks about an excavator that didn't notify the notification center, shall be liable for a penalty in the amount of $5,000. It's a shall. There's no negotiation. There's no structure. But currently, as you read some of the material that the Attorney General brought in, they refer to a portion of this same section that doesn't fit, frankly, in the letter that they send out to the notification center. And they talk about how the role of the Attorney General, the primary purpose of our office enforcement of the Wyoming Underground Facilities Act is to educate the excavators and operators of their legal duties. Nowhere in statute does it say that. Doesn't exist. Should it? Probably. And so they then will, instead of following the $5,000 fine, they'll maybe let it go if they do some safety training, or they'll reduce the amount. But there's no provision in the statute to do that. The language is plain in statute. Should we have a structured fine? Probably. And so the thought as we look at that is to clarify in statute whether the Attorney General should do that or not. And one of the things that we looked at in other states is they create a board under an agency to receive those violations and have the authority to then levy a structured fine. Currently, the Public Service Commission has put together a fine schedule and monitors this, even though they're not mentioned in statute. They've kind of been left with that burden, because if we don't do it, then we're in violation of the federal law on the interstate pipelines. So they've kind of by default been filling in this responsibility. And so one of the ideas that has surfaced as we've met as a group is to then create a board under the direction of the Public Service Commission that would have the authority to review the violations, investigate the violations, which means did they do the one call, did they get everything done right, and then to levy a fine. And if the violator wanted to appeal that, he could appeal it to the Public Service Commission, which is a structure that's already in place. And if he wanted to appeal the Public Service Commission, then it could go to district court. That would take some statutory change to do that. So that's the part on the Attorney General. The third thing is the governmental entity exemption. One of the concerns that AGC pointed out is if when they're doing road work through a municipality and they do the one call, oftentimes the municipality does not locate within the 48 hours, and they're delayed in their time. It costs them money while they wait for it. And if you call the municipality, they may say, well, yeah, we'll get to it. And the reason they're not in a hurry is because currently in statutes, they're exempted from any civil penalty. And so as we've looked at that, we think that that is not understanding why they were when this was crafted, that it's reasonable to expect that a city who doesn't comply with the statutes on this would also have to comply and would have to pay a civil penalty.
Okay, we have a question, Senator Kolb.
Please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Larson, just to help me understand this a little bit, thank God my company never was involved with hitting anything to have a civil fine. But the purpose of the fine, is it a deterrent for other folks to keep on doing it? Does it, I assume it doesn't go towards the repair of said thing they had been damaged. So why are we doing, I mean, I want to help me understand why we need this fine besides, I guess, for repeat offenders. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think the example on the municipalities is a good example to comply with the statutory requirements of the act. So to prevent excavators from digging without doing a one call, they do that right now. They do that at risk of a $5,000 fine. An operator doesn't, if like municipalities now, they can say, well, you know, we'll go locate it if we have time or if not, because there's no penalty on us if we don't do it. And so they're leaving the excavators in the lurch, and it's costing them money because they can't move forward. Or if they do move forward, they do so at some risk.
Follow up.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I wasn't really talking about the municipality situation or thinking about that. I was thinking about the contractor. So you got a contractor, let's say you know the area, just, I mean, I know this is a little bit of going out on a limb here, but let's just say you know for certain that this area has never been excavated. There's nothing out there. And then you excavate and you're still subject to a fine for not getting a one call. Well, no harm, no foul. If you didn't cause any damage to said area and you didn't do anything, it seems like a risk you're willing to take on in this particular situation. I'm not encouraging people to do this, but I'm saying, why are you giving them a fine for not causing damage? That's, I guess, my question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman and Senator Kolb, and I think what you're trying to do is minimize those situations where you are certain that there's nothing there, and indeed there is. So all it takes is a call to the notification center. And you've done many of them. And if there's nothing there, they say you're cleared for digging. And you've got a ticket number and you can dig away. But in the event there is something there and damage is done, it could be very costly.
Go ahead, Senator Kolb.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It still goes back to big government oversight and having the government getting, you know, putting a punitive fine on you for nothing happening. That's I guess my angst with this, you know, fine for ended up doing nothing, because you take the liability as a company, right? It's your risk. You've done something that you're at risk. I get that, but to have the government come back in and fine you, I just don't quite see the need for that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's my concern.
Mr. Chairman, in response, Representative Kolb, but as I've had this conversation, the big concern is, for example, you have a utility, you have a pipeline company that has an easement, a legal easement, and a right of way through there. And people take liberty of digging across that and putting your utility at risk. And you go talk, and they repeatedly say, particularly in a subdivision, and the people say, we didn't know there's a utility there, so we're out there digging. They've never done a one call. So I would not argue that there's probably cases, particularly when you get to the agricultural part, where they know in a field there's nothing there. But as a whole, it is a risk, and we're trying to minimize the risk. And the easiest mitigation around that is to just do a one call. And if you don't do a one call and get caught, then you could be liable for a civil fine.
Senator Barlow.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm sure there's lots of materials out there, but maybe just frame this up. How many one calls are made a year? How many result in damage to a system that was either had a call or did not have a call? And where are we at with actually fines being attributed because of either one of those? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Representative Barlow. I don't have the exact numbers from the one call center, I can get that. They keep those on file, both those that were done without notification or not complying with the time frame and damages done. And so I'll get that and provide it to the committee.
Okay. Senator Anderson.
Mr. Chairman, in reading through this, I'm having a hard time understanding the difference between an operator and an excavator. In our nomenclature, an operator usually is a person operating the machine, but it might be that the operator is the person that's controlling the cable. I don't know what the definitions are in the.
Mr. Chairman and
Representative Larson.
Senator Anderson, I struggled with that too because I come from that same industry. But when the legislature drafted that, they use operator as a term for the person who owns the utility.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Nicholas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I am curious how often the Public Service Commission or any entity issues a fine when a one call is not made. And it's very interesting because there's lots of statutes that say shall, when it really is, it's interpreted by the courts to mean may. That just happens all the time in certain situations. I'm guessing this is one of those situations. So they may issue a fine if they see negligence to a certain degree that is kind of shocks the conscience a little bit, but otherwise they don't do it. Or if you have some kind of significant damage, but I'm just curious how often that happens and what, and I can see the intellectual risk to the language that's there, but how real is it?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Representative Nicholas. You're hitting the nail on the head, and I think the Attorney General, in the conversation with him, his explanation fits what you're saying, but it is contrary to what the statutes say. And so, for those who are impacted, and they read it, and then there's a different decision made by the Attorney General, it adds confusion. That's why it needs to be cleaned up. And I think that can be done in a process to where there's not that ambiguity for those who are trying to comply with the law and those who are enforcing the civil penalties. But you're right. And then to the number, I think goes to the question that Senator Barlow has, and I'll get that from the notification center and the AG and provide that to the committee.
And then just to follow up, the issue of reasonable care. I mean, reasonable care is defined in lots of different ways in the statutes and in case law. The reason that that burden of proof lies with the excavator, because he's the only person on the ground. So it makes sense as a practical matter that burden lies with the excavator to me, except in there might be different situations there doesn't, but no one else has that on the ground ability. And then so let's go to the soft care, the soft shovel. The soft shovel is reasonable care if there's a realistic possibility that there's something underneath you. And so that's just basically common law of what a reasonable person would do under the circumstances. What a reasonable person would do under the circumstances now with our statutes is make the call, right? So I think those flow. So it's part of this explanation, I think, is a little, it has a bias built into the worksheet that you presented to me. But my point is, I'm not saying you're wrong or right, but I'd be happy to work with you as we kind of move forward and if we tinker with this.
Thank Mr. Chairman and Representative Nicholas. I agree with you. And the question is, why wasn't the operator on the ground? When they're supposed to do the call, then they should have been on the ground verifying.
No, I agree.
Yeah, and that's
particularly with the,
and that's the change that would take place there. So, thank you. Great questions, because you're just identifying the same things that we found in the statute. And then the last one that we have in there is if you look at the exemptions, agricultural purposes are exempted. It says the Underground Facility Notification Act applies to all excavations as defined except tilling of the soil and gardening or agricultural purposes. There's a couple of, there's some fair arguments on both sides of that. One is against exempting them is that those type of exemptions really put us in conflict with the federal law and the interstate pipeline stuff. And are we saying there's no circumstances where an agricultural activity should be required to do a one call? So I reached out to the stock growers, the Farm Bureau members, and a couple of our colleagues, one on the House and one on the Senate side, who are engaged in agriculture. And they agree that should be not modified and that we should probably have a section in there that gives, instead of just one little sentence, helps the excavators, the operators, and the ag people understand when it would be appropriate, when it would be required to do a one call and when it wouldn't. For example, if you've got a field that you're plowing or tilling annually or biannually, and have done since Moses left Omaha, kind of to Representative or Senator Coe's point, and it's been verified that nothing's there, should you have to do a one call each time? And what we provided in there is a look at other states on agricultural stuff, and they generally do that down to 18 to 24 inches. If you're going to do something in the field, you're going to put in a new pivot, and you're going to be putting that water line in at 4 foot, you would still want to do a one call. Case in point, in my town, just outside of town, a guy had a hay field that he was unaware that there was a 4-inch gas line that went through there. The guy come in to run the water line out to the center pivot and trench through the pipeline. He's tilled that field years and years and years, but it just never gone to that depth. So maybe exempting at a level, and the folks that I've been working with agree that that's a reasonable approach, but we haven't put the final numbers to that, how and when and why. It sounds, Todd Forstrom from Farm Bureau, and I don't want to speak for him, but just indicated in one of our meetings that in his part of the world, it's easement heaven. There's just a lot of utilities run up and down that part of the state that cross ag land, and they're not all outside the fence line in the bar ditch. Some of them do go through, and so there's some correction that we feel could help make this act clearer and more applicable. And if we elect to move forward with a draft bill, I'd appreciate the good attorney's help in making sure that we understand what the general legal application is.
Senator Barlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Revis Larson, I see there's folks in the room who want to testify to this as well, but within the current act, there is no preemption of civil liability, not the fine part of it, but civil liability for if you made the one call. There is no immunity being provided in current law. Is that accurate or inaccurate? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman and Senator Barlow, if I understand you correctly, and it's a point that I appreciate, because what we're referring to here in this is the statutory civil penalties. If there's damages done to the utility, the underground utility, this notes that the excavator who done the damage, because he didn't do the one call, is liable for damages. It also notes in the operator side on this balanced approach that if they didn't do the locate, and there was no indication that there was no markers there, and so then the excavator starts with reason, that then they're liable for the damages done. But then right now, the excavator still has to prove that they proceeded with reasonable care. And we think because they weren't there, the operator should proceed with reasonable care. But then you always have the civil action available to you to, as an operator back against the excavator and excavator back to the operator. I would also note, Mr. Chairman, that in the definitions, when it talks about an excavator, and this is one that the stock growers brought up, they said, so if I go out and kick a rock out from in front of my pickup on a right-of-way, then I'm an excavator. Under our current statutes, yes. And so we would also think that it warrants a little clearer definition on what an excavation means. So those are some of the things we're trying to clean up in this statute.
Senator Kolb.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, Representative Larson, thank you for tackling this. It's a mess, and we need to improve it. That being said, back in the day when I was a county commissioner, this road grading was a huge issue, right? And it came up to a question about just how deep, what can you do when you're doing your road grading? Has any thought been put into clarifying that and making, like, barring the issue you're, immune from civil liability, what can we, just to improve or make it more clear what counties can do as it relates to road grading in this particular case? Has that been an issue that you've heard about, or any thoughts about maybe improving that language? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Kolb, I'm familiar with that as well, and I believe there's an exemption in here for maintaining of highways and roads. But we're certainly open to, if we need to clarify or define that more. And so please, if you've got suggestions, that'd be helpful.
Okay. Thank you. Any further questions? Okay. Representative Larson, do you have more? We do have to go to civil penalty administration.
I think I've taken enough of your time.
Okay. Okay. Senator Barlow.
Mr. Chairman, just to be clear, does the document that you just kind of went through, I can't remember what the name of it is, does that summarize basically what the changes that you think are applicable in this, all of the changes? Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Barlow, that's what we would attempt to address in the draft bill.
Yeah, Representative Larson, I don't know that you really talked about number 4 in there.
So, Mr. Chairman, just to kind of answer the part of the questions that raised by Senator Barlow, if it goes to a civil lawsuit, you can, the way that would bear out is you can bring in testimony of what the statutory language is and what the fines are, but they're only civil fines. But then it goes back to, that's just additional evidence to be considered. It's not demonstrative of fault. And so then it just goes to either the judge or a jury question to do it.
Because under 4, you're looking at creating a board, and so you may want to walk us through number 4.
Well, and I thought I did. That was the board that would come under the jurisdiction of the Public Service Commission, and then they would have authority to receive that violation report from the notification center. The board then would have the authority to investigate, have that investigation done to determine if the one call had been made or if they had located in the right amount of time. And the PSC, we'd also give the PSC the authority to structure penalties to where it's not shall be the 5,000, but that it could be a fine schedule.
Okay, I thought we missed some stuff there, so, okay. So I would like to, is the Attorney General's office available? I think we'd like to have them weigh in.
They are
Hi,
online,
yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Damie Metzler. I'm an Assistant Attorney General with the AG's office, and I am the attorney who is currently in charge of the enforcement of the Underground Facilities Act. I will preface, my testimony here today that I am new to the AG's office, so I've only been doing this enforcement for about 2 months. And our attorney that was currently doing this for, I believe, the last year or so just was traveling today and unable to be on the meeting. But I have kind of dove into this a little bit, already engaged in some enforcement. And so I'm happy to start by kind of talking you all through the process of the Attorney General's role in this and how we've operated thus far. So
Please
what
do.
are, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, that's okay. Please do.
Okay. Currently what we do is everything for enforcement actions has to start with a complaint. And those complaints typically come, if it's a complaint against an excavator, it typically comes from the underground facilities operator. If there was damage to a line or they came upon a circumstance where they found an excavator to be operating without a ticket, various different scenarios for that. Or we also get complaints against the operators of the underground facilities for situations where there was a failure to mark, the marks were incorrect, various different situations under the statute where we could find ourselves with a complaint. And those complaints come through the one call portal, and there is a ticket and a damage ticket and number associated with that. And so once a month, the Attorney General's office meets with both the Public Service Commission and the one call system, and we go through those complaints one by one and determine the circumstances surrounding it and kind of evaluate them as a group to determine whether we believe there was a violation of the statute. And if there was, we look then to kind of what Representative Larson was explaining, how we assess the civil penalty. And we've kind of gone, in circles a little bit with the statute as well. Most of the statutory fines are defined as up to a certain amount, but specifically for a situation where there is a failure to call into the one call system and get a locate ticket for an operator, the statute does say that the operator or the excavator shall be liable for a fine of $5,000. But other language in the statute has led us to kind of interpret that in practice a little differently. And Representative Larson explained, we have actually, I believe it was the Public Service Commission that came up with the fine spreadsheet, and I believe they're planning on speaking on this as well. So I will let them kind of take the lead on that. But there's different factors we look at for each situation to determine the level of fine. And I believe one of the senators had a question about, a situation where there may have been no damage, but there wasn't a locate. Those are things that we consider when determining what type of fine to assess, kind of aggravating and mitigating factors. If there was a public safety threat, if there was a significant outage, like a power outage, or if there was a dangerous gas leak, there's a lot of different things we look at. And while we go through that all together, because the Attorney General is the entity that is actually doing the enforcement, we've taken it under our discretion as to how we're going to assess those fines. And we try and do that through a settlement process. So we're not having to litigate each one of these complaints in district court. And since I've been here, we haven't had to do that. And speaking with some attorneys who have been in the office longer than I have, I don't believe there's been any time in the last several years that any of these have gone to district court as far as the civil penalty. The damages that one party may be liable to another party, that is not something that our office is involved in. at all. We stick to the enforcement of the civil penalties. And so at the conclusion of that meeting, the PSC sends out a email kind of summarizing, so we know which numbers we're seeking enforcement on. And we do different kinds of enforcement besides the civil penalty. We send warning letters, we offer training, and also sometimes assess a penalty. And the reason we do that is based on the individual situation. And really, I think you pointed out it's not in statute, but really the purpose of what we're doing is to protect the underground facilities, and working with the One Call and the Public Service Commission. It really is important that we're educating, especially excavators. There's been some conversation about who is an excavator, and it could be, it's like you said, it's not a profession. It's anyone who's out there digging, and oftentimes people are not aware of their duty under the statutes. So we're really trying to educate, and so people know how to use the system, when to use the system, and the best way to do that. And so we send out letters. We try and reach settlements with parties when there is a fine being assessed. That way we're not having to litigate these in district court. And so far this year, last year there were over, I believe, 230 complaints through the system. So far this year, we've received over 100. And I think we'll just expect that number to continue to increase over the summer months, where more construction and outdoor projects are going on. And so I'm having taken this over, there was a little bit of a backlog from last year that I'm working on to catch up. And then we'll continue enforcement with the complaints we've had so far this year.
Okay. Well, thank you for your testimony, Ms. Metzler. I do have one question before I open it up to the committee. I'm assuming that you received and have reviewed the key issues and analysis paper that was submitted to the committee. There are recommendations in there for tweaking our statutes. Does the Attorney General's office have any issues with any of the recommendations, either pro or against, or maybe just no position on?
I have not had a chance to fully dive into that with Attorney General Couts, and I believe he is online. He was a little late getting here. He had another meeting, but I think that's something we would want to have a further conversation on before we express, a strong position one way or the other.
Well, okay. If we move forward with the bill here, I certainly would like you to look at your office to look at those recommendations and make sure that that your office is comfortable with them. Committee, do you have any questions? Oh, I see Justice
Handsome face.
Keith, Attorney General now. I keep wanting to call him Justice. Welcome, Attorney General Couts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Metzler. You got a good presentation from her about what we do. I've taken a look at what Representative Larson has, and we don't have any position. I know that other states use the administrative process similar to what's been recommended, and we don't. If those things sound like good ideas to the committee and to the legislature, we sure are willing to support them. We don't see anyway. I haven't seen any glitches or concerns from a legal point of view of how we would implement this at this point in time.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Committee, any questions for the Attorney General or Ms. Metzler? Senator Kolb.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney General Couts, just a question. Do you know the amount of time, like say an FTE position would be taken to do these kind of activities with these enforcement actions or non-enforcement actions? Just some idea of how much time it's taking your office to handle this type of issue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman and Senator Kolb, I'm going to defer to Ms. Metzler and ask her to tell you how much time she works on this.
It really depends from month to month. And like I said, I've only been doing this about 2 months. And at this point, I'm trying to catch up from a little bit of a backlog from 2025. I would say once we get caught up, it's definitely not the full time of my job. I would say maybe like 10%. If that's, it's hard to say, but I will also note that, and I think the Public Service Commission can maybe speak on this more because it goes through them, but my understanding is that our time spent on enforcement for this is funded through a federal grant. It's not something, so I enter my time that I spend on this separately, from, I guess, general fund work. And that all goes through the Public Service Commission. So I think they may have a little bit more information on that. But, it really depends, I think, year to year. And from the data I've looked at historically, the number of complaints that we're getting seems to be increasing each year.
Okay, thank you. Committee, any further questions? Okay, thank you both. We appreciate you testifying this morning. Okay, so do we have, I think, committee, any more questions for Representative Larson before we go to public testimony? Okay, none. All right. They're not on the, we don't have the, are they online?
Yes, sir. The
Oh,
Public
okay,
Service
I didn't
Commission
see
is
them on our
online.
list here. So would you please let in the Public Service Commission?
Zoom in.
Oh, there, yeah, I see them already.
Chairman Pappas, can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Welcome.
Yes, my name is John Burbridge. I'm Secretary and Chief Counsel for the Public Service Commission. Thank you for letting us appear remotely due to the weather. We very much appreciate that. In the room with me, I have Deputy Chairman Petrie, who will be giving some opening remarks here. And also in the room is Commissioner Boswell. With that, I would turn this over to Deputy Chairman Petrie.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'll try not to be too disorganized about this. Starting off with the paper, the key issues and analysis document. There are a lot of excellent points made there. This section of the statutes is not particularly elegant, and there's certainly room for some improvement here. And I think that we should be able to simplify and clarify this, which leads right to the conclusion: the improved compliance, reduce disputes, strengthen public safety, and ensure the statutes operate as originally intended. That's exactly in line with what we've been trying to do since about 6 years ago, when PHMSA, the Pipeline Safety Hazardous Materials Administration of the federal government, expressed some concern about our lack of enforcement actions taken for one-call violations. And that has a potential to affect a grant that the Public Service Commission gets, which funds, I believe, 2 FTEs that, and also some of our expenses billed to us from the Attorney General's office in recent years. That if we didn't have any enforcement for one-call violations, that would result in a bad grade, I suppose you could say, in our annual audit for that program, which is our gas and liquid lines inspections everywhere in the state, excluding the big interstate lines. So we don't do that. Since that was raised, we developed this system that you've heard about, where the Attorney General's office participates and takes the lead in approaching violators with warning letters and sometimes further action. I can tell you that for 2024, there were 44 warning letters, 19 civil penalties, totaling $22,500 and 12 trainings that resulted from violations. That's quite a bit. That's the high watermark for penalties. More recently, in 2025, we show 24 warning letters, 32 civil penalties, civil penalty collected of $3,800, and 18 trainings. So it has varied some, but not terribly drastically. I can also tell you that there has been one, I believe this is related to Senator Kolb's question. There's been one excavator who received a penalty by digging without damaging anything and who had not called in a locate. So no locate, starts digging, no damage, got a penalty. This was an excavator who had hit underground facilities several times and was assessed a penalty because of their repeated violations and the idea that they needed to, their attention needed to be got. Unless there are questions about it, I don't think it's necessary for the commission's position on every topic in this document to be laid out right now. I would say though that the recommended change on section 4, the establishment of a board of operators and excavators under the commission's jurisdiction. We understand that that is an arrangement that exists in other states. We really don't have a complete understanding of how effective that is compared to other arrangements. And for the sake of simplicity, we have discussed whether it might be better to have the commission itself be the decision maker on the assessment of penalties. That would be a new thing for the commission, but not an entirely new concept. And that may be a way to streamline this further than it would be in the presence of a board of operators and excavators overseen or somehow under the commission's jurisdiction. We greatly appreciate the efforts of the Attorney General's office to operate as best we can within this existing statute. Mr. McCollum, our engineering supervisor, has told me that repeat offenders are almost non-existent once they have been contacted in any form by the Attorney General's office. So that is an effective deterrent, and that together with training requirements and the penalties is we think working well. Like I said, it would be nice for the statute to be improved, and streamlined, and made more clear. We understand that this is not exactly easy for people to understand, and especially people who are not involved in this on such a regular basis as the Attorney General's office and our office are. So I'm sure that would be appreciated by the excavator and operator communities as well. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Petrie. Any questions? I think Representative Geringer has had his hand up first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you folks for appearing before us. I guess I hesitate to create another level with a council to hear these violations or whatnot, but and you had suggested that maybe the PSC be that level to do that. I guess I want to understand with your current list of responsibilities, are you able to handle that kind of thing? Is it, or is it putting undue burden on you to be the first point of contact rather than having the council hear it first and then you be the appeal board?
Mr. Petrie.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Geringer, that's a great question. We've been kicking that one around amongst ourselves, and I think it's a bit difficult to tell how much of a burden that would be. There are, as you heard, there are a large number of complaints. There are a much smaller number of incidents and instances where actual penalties come into play. And so we've been thinking about this as being handled similarly to the way that we handle complaints by customers against utilities. And most of those do not end up in a whole hearing scenario. Most of the time, they're resolved at a lower level, and the commission doesn't have to hear from witnesses and conduct a full-blown hearing. I think that it's likely that something like that would occur here as well. And we would not have the commission, at least as I envision this, we would not have the commission delving into all the details of the complaints and the reports and the photographs and so on until and unless the violator or the potential violator, the alleged violator, requested a hearing. So everything we do at the commission is under the Administrative Procedure Act. And so at some point, there is an opportunity for a hearing for anybody whose rights or obligations are going to be affected by a commission decision. So I think that it would be a relatively small number of instances where that actually occurred. So there's certainly some work that would be involved here, and we certainly do have lots of work to do as it is. But we're also already spending quite a bit of staff time on this task anyway. So I'm sorry, that's not a real precise question. I think it's feasible. It would be some work to do, and we haven't really pinned that down as far as whether it means we need another half a person or anything like that.
Well, thank you. I think if this bill moves forward, we can probably work out where best that responsibility lies. Senator Anderson, did you have a question?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I did. On WS 3712 301B III, do you think we should eliminate the ag exemption?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Anderson, I don't think that it'd be reasonable to eliminate entirely the ag exemption, like Representative Larson suggested. It's a little bit vague, and so just the catch-all of agricultural purposes. I think that perhaps there needs to be some kind of a limitation on that, some kind of parameters, because practically anything that is occurring out on ag land would be exempt, and that seems a little bit much. So some kind of definition there seems like it'd be necessary. I don't think getting rid of it completely. We don't want everybody to be calling for locates in territory where they know there's nothing, and just for the purpose of turning over 8 inches of soil.
Okay, Senator Kolb.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just on the ag question in general, for my own edification, if a person was to dig on said agricultural lands and cause damage to said pipeline, let's say, I guess my understanding is, or what I thought is that they'd still be liable for the damage they caused to said pipeline. I think, are we only talking about the exemption for the fines, or are they exempt from damaging the pipeline? That's my question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, and Senator Kolb, I think that I don't believe there's anything here, and not in that agriculture exemption that protects that agriculturalist excavator from liability for damaging underground facilities. I think it's meant to relieve them of the one call obligation only.
Okay, committee, any further questions for the commission? Seeing none, gentlemen, we thank you for attending today. Appreciate your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Eve, is there any other agency online? Or are they all private?
Mr. Chairman, we have one call of Wyoming online as well.
Okay, let's hear from one call.
And Mr. Chairman, we also have the Wyoming Association of Municipalities, so I will admit them too.
Good morning, everybody. This is Jan Warren, Executive Director for One Call of Wyoming. Thank you for having me this morning. I appreciate the opportunity as well to attend with the weather, to be able to attend this via the internet. I don't really have any questions. I have worked with Representative Larson and some of these draft languages and things like that. I'm here if you have questions or clarifications regarding the process and what we're all doing together. I'm here to answer anything I can as well. Thank you.
Okay, committee, any questions for one call? Senator Barlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So maybe just summarize 2025 numbers. How many calls were made? How many resulted in damage? Anyway, some just basic overarching numbers so we can have a context of the what we're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Senator Barlow. I can tell you we had a significant increase in excavation, which is a good thing when it comes to the number of tickets that we are receiving in the center. We processed just over 600,000 locate requests last year for the excavation community and our operators. I will tell you, since the statutory change went from $500 some years ago, $500 to the $5,000 that it currently sits at, and the up to language, as well as the specific 5,000 for the excavator and operator, I can tell you those numbers have come down in damages. I believe, I don't have those numbers handy right in front of me, but I can tell you the numbers have come down to at least half. And I am not saying that is because of the penalties. What I'm saying is it's getting attention, and the process that the commission, the AG's office, and One Call of Wyoming have in place currently to work through damages and complaints. The amount of training that we are doing and having that option for the alleged violations that could be out there makes a huge impact to the public. So I can tell you right now we have roughly 800, it looks like about 800 damages last year. And again, these are all self-reporting damages. So we don't get the damages, you know, if someone just calls their local hometown guy and says, hey, I hit your cable. Hey, I hit your water line. Can you come fix it, kind of stuff. These are reported numbers. So they are a bit skewed. They're not always exact, but I can tell you that the number of damages are coming down. And our calls are on the increase, especially this year. We're seeing record number of locate tickets coming in as we speak with our unprecedented warm weather and the fiber push across the state as well.
Okay. Committee, any Senator Barlow, follow up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in a lot of oil and gas fields particularly, pipelines are abandoned in place. So my query is there a separate category for this abandonment in place type of structures? It may be old, actually, our phone line was just abandoned in place to our home. So is there a different category for those type of things? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Warren?
Thank you, Chairman. Senator Barlow. That is a great question. Abandoned facilities are at the national forefront with Common Ground Alliance and the rest of the 811 centers across the country. There aren't any specific pieces of information or separate data that we collect or monitor, if you will, when it comes to an abandoned facility. What I can tell you is if it comes in that it was a damage in a facility, we get out, the utility gets out there and says this was abandoned. We get the report back on that when the complaint had come in. I know there's no action taken on those when it's an abandoned facility. But as far as the actual data and how those are categorized or captured, we do not have anything in process or in place to be doing that. It's a national topic about abandoned facilities.
Okay, thank you. Senator Kolb?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Recently in the news, there was some reclaiming of old copper out there in the middle of Wyoming, going through some sensitive areas. Just did that company contact you with any information on or requests or that they were going to carry out such actions? Were you aware of that? I guess, what do you know about that operation that was going on that was recently reported? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Warren? Any knowledge on that?
And thank you, Senator Cole. I am not aware of that issue, nor has it been brought to my office's attention. I'd be happy to do any research for anyone that would be interested in having that data, but it is the first of myself hearing from it, other than reading the news article. So,
okay, thank you. Committee, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Ms. Warren, for your testimony. So before we actually get to the other online testimony, I'd like to take public comment from anybody in the room. Please come forward.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Kelly Little. I'm with the Associated General Contractors of Wyoming. I'm joined today by Bert Andreen. He is the owner of Andreen Hunt, a general contracting company here in Casper, and one of our members who does quite a bit of underground excavation work. Mr. Andreen is also on the 811 Board of Directors. He's the vice president, and he is the agency designated representative on that board and the only excavator contractor on the board. So he has big shoes to fill there representing the industry on the 811 board. He's here to answer questions. So when we get to the end, if you have any questions specifically for one of the contractors, that's why he's here. But I'll just give you a little background today. Our member companies work every day around buried utilities. They take safety seriously because their workers' lives depend on it and because our communities rely on the infrastructure they help build and maintain. We support Wyoming's one-call system, but the statute as written today has several gaps that create unnecessary risk, confusion, and unfairness for both excavators and operators. First, the issue of liability. Right now, the law places almost strict liability on excavators. Even when an operator fails to locate on time or provides inaccurate information, the excavator still carries the burden of proving reasonable care. The statute doesn't define what that means. It doesn't define when hand digging or soft digging is required. That leaves contractors guessing what a court might decide after the fact. We're simply asking for shared responsibility. When an operator doesn't meet their obligations, the burden of proof should shift back to them. Second, the AG's role needs clarity. The Notifications Center sends monthly noncompliance reports to the AG, but it's not clear in statute. It doesn't say what the AG is supposed to do with them. That creates inconsistent enforcement and exposes the process to legal challenge. We support defining the AG's role so everyone knows what to expect. Third, governmental entities should be held to the same standard as private operators. Cities, counties, special districts, and other public entities are among the largest operators in Wyoming, yet they are exempt from civil penalties if they participate in the notification center. Many of the delays that our companies face involve public entity locates. This exemption undermines safety and slows down projects that communities depend on. Fourth, Wyoming needs a workable civil penalty process. A third-party enforcement board, whether that is the PSC or another entity, with a clear fine schedule would provide predictability and fairness for everyone. These changes do not expand the scope of Wyoming's one-call law. They simply clarify responsibilities, restore fairness, and close enforcement gaps that put workers, operators, and the public at risk. We'd like to see what is being done in practice clarified in the statute. Our goal is a system that's predictable, balanced, and safe. These amendments help ensure the law functions as originally intended. And I do want to just quickly answer Senator Kolb's question about county road maintenance. Just several years ago, the law changed and routine county road maintenance is exempt from the notification requirements. And that is defined as regular grading of a county road for the purpose of maintaining the surface condition of the road or a roadside drainage ditch that does not extend more than 4 inches below the surface and does not result in alteration of the original grade, width, or flow line. I'd like to thank Representative Larson for taking on this pretty big project over the interim and his work on just bringing all the stakeholders together. So I'd really want to just give a shout out to him, and then I would thank you for your time, and we would take any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Ms. Little. Any questions? Representative Geringer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Little, for your testimony. I guess my question is, can you give us an idea of how often your members run into the cases where local entities have not marked utilities in an adequate period or within the time frame that we require?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Geringer, I can't give you a definitive number or time frame. I will say that there have been several instances in the last year where we've ran into that in some cities. And I think it's just because there is so much work going on and the cities are very busy. Obviously, they have limited staff and limited ability to do those locates, but the law is the law, and we'd like to see those locates done in the appropriate amount of time that is outlined in statute, and there to be teeth in the law that keeps them to that.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none. Senator Barlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I want to understand, does the municipality, the local governments, they have the responsibility to locate. They just don't have the penalty if they don't locate within 48 hours. Am I understanding that accurately? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, yes, that is correct, Senator Barlow.
Okay. Follow up.
Thank you. As a follow-up to who is responsible for the locates? There seems like there are third parties that do locates on behalf of entities, and then there are the entities themselves that have the infrastructure responsibility, ownership, whatever that is. So is there a differentiation in that? If that's true, is there a differentiation in who bears responsibility, whether you're a contractor responsible to do it or you're the actual entity that owns it? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Barlow, the operators and owners do hire third-party contractor companies to do the locates. Several of them do. Some of them do their own, but most of the time it's a third-party contractor. However, the responsibility and onus falls back on the owner-operator to make sure that those locates are done in accordance with the statute. So the third-party locators don't really have any, I guess, mention or place in the statute to be liable in any way.
Okay, thank you. Questions, further questions? Mr. Andreen, did you have any? No. Okay. All right. Okay, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Ryan, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Ryan McConaughey with the Petroleum Association of Wyoming. PAW and our members are in a unique position that we are often operators and excavators. and which just makes it a little more confusing to Senator Anderson's point earlier, but it really is based on the activity that is happening. I won't take up a lot of your time. A lot of my comments are similar to what other people have said, but I just really want to point out kind of the 4 key points that we believe the 811 system does is 1, put safety at the forefront of development and protecting human life. Protecting the environment when it would come to the idea of a strike on a pipeline, ensures uninterrupted service to our communities and to the state of Wyoming. If anybody is aware of all the work that has been done recently on fiber, we saw an incident here in Casper that caused an outage citywide on internet service. And then all while ensuring that the work is done in a timely manner so that development is not hindered unnecessarily. So from our standpoint, really operators, in a perfect world for an operator, there would be no exemptions, but we also understand that that's just not the reality of the world that we're living in. We certainly look forward to working with our friends in agriculture to really narrow that agriculture exemption to something that is, a process or the work that's being done rather than just an industry. When we first talked about this, I looked at a scenario where an oil and gas company may be doing reclamation and doing some of the exact same work that agriculture is doing, yet because it's not an agricultural process, it would not be exempt. And so we look forward to having those conversations. I believe you have the outline of different states. Often they have a depth or process purpose to them, or there's some language about they should have reasonable knowledge that there would be an underground facility in place. So we look forward to those conversations. I would echo Ms. Little's comments on the local government exemptions. I think one thing that has not been discussed here, the language that we've been looking at would do nothing related to the Government Claims Act. So this would just be the civil penalty portion, and we would support that. And then finally, when it comes to moving the enforcement board or whatever that looks like with the committee under the Public Service Commission, our one thing that we would like to ensure is that the funding for that does not come from the Public Service Commission's funds directly. We would hate to see this go back on utilities and the rates they pay that would then in turn result in a rate case before the Public Service Commission. So whether that's through the grants that are available at the federal level or the money being assessed in these fines going towards the funding of that work, we'd certainly welcome those sort of things as well. So with that, Mr. Chairman, again, I would also like to thank Representative Larson for his work on this and would stand for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. McConaughey? Senator Barlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. McConaughey, would you speak to the abandonment in place if you have any thoughts on that? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Barlow, I'm not sure. We have not had that discussion. I certainly can take that to our members and we can talk about that. I think there probably should be a system in place that would allow for utilities to define those or identify those for the one call system. And we can certainly bring back some suggestions on that as well.
Thank you. Any further questions? Thanks, Ryan.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now the stock growers.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the opportunity to be here, and particularly I've appreciated the opportunity to work with Representative Larson on this issue. I would begin by saying—
Jim, would you please introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Jim Magagna, Wyoming Stockgrowers Association.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's unusual to sit in front of the legislative committee and not always support ag exemptions as they exist around it. And I knew Senator Anderson was getting to that point, but Mr. Chairman, in this case, I think there are reasons that some reasonable changes are worthy of being looked at, not only to protect the facilities that are located underground, but to provide a level of protection for the ag producer themselves if they're digging and hit a live power line or an active pipeline that blows up. I mean, they're at some risk too. So I think it's reasonable to take a look at this. I have provided you with a list of some items. I won't go through those in detail. I just intended to identify the types of activities that I think that an exemption should apply to. It's not necessarily an exhaustive list, but I think it gives you an indication. In part, it's based at looking at some of the way other states have approached this issue as well. So without going into those in detail, I guess a couple of points I would emphasize this morning. And you'll see I have two categories here. And the reason is there are simply vast areas, particularly in Western Wyoming, Senator Cole referenced those earlier, that have never had anything go through them. If I might use myself as a brief example, I've been on my current ranch property for over 70 years. There's nothing anywhere near there that's gone through a pipeline, wire, anything. And so there are areas where it makes no sense to have a requirement of this type. How we identify those and how what tools are available, that's, I think, a matter for further discussion. And one thought that's come to our mind is in today's age, since these underground facilities have to be reported, would be having mapping available. So if I'm out in the middle of somewhere and I feel I have a need to dig a ditch or something, that I can look at a map, and the law might provide that if you're more than a half a mile or whatever that would be from an identified facility, that you're exempt from that need to apply. And that would be not just for agriculture, but perhaps for other uses as well. So I would call that to your attention. As far as the separating those two categories as I've listed them here, I think is one of the challenges we face, but we're certainly committed to continuing to work with you on those. I do, as I look at the ones that are exempt in areas reasonably known to contain and I apologize, Mr. Chairman, I believe I have a mistake here. I did this rather hastily. That second listing should be exemptions. No, that's correct. It's correct the way it is. I would add to that list perhaps private road maintenance, which is another factor in for many of us in rural areas that have private roads as entrances to our ranch headquarters, to our haystacks, things like that, that need to be maintained to some level. Finally, I just noted on here for further discussion that's been brought forward by others, and that is the $5,000 penalty for failure to notify, which we believe is rather excessive, particularly in those areas where it's highly unlikely that there are any facilities to be located. And I hope that the committee will look at that as well in this process. And with that, Mr. Chairman, in the interest of your time and the weather, I would be pleased to entertain any questions.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Any questions for Mr. Magagna? Appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you. Aha, Representative Higgins, how are you today?
Good, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is exciting, another great topic. I'd like to maybe respond to Senator Barlow's question he's been asking.
Please introduce yourself.
Oh, Representative J.R. Riggin, sorry. So he's asking about abandoned or deactivated pipelines. So I think you'd find guidance in that with the Department of Transportation. They have guidance about how you handle it and how if you have to maintain it and who's responsible, and locates and cathodic protection on, especially with deactivated pipelines, that has to be maintained. As far as abandoned pipelines, I know that the company I worked for many years, we have I guess it'll be officially abandoned, but we still have line markers on it, and I think they still locate that line in case people call in locates, even though there's nothing connected on either end of it, and it's over north of Douglas, just across the river in Douglas. So I think maybe each utility handles that, but I think the Department of Transportation would probably give you better guidance on that.
Representative Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Representative Riggins. You're referring to the Federal Department of Transportation on interstate, right? Not the state Department of Transportation.
Correct. A couple of other comments. One thing, I'm glad that the PSC kind of said that, and Mr. Gagnon mentioned it too, about the fines for not making one call and there's nothing there. I'd hate to see someone be digging a post hole in their backyard and their neighbor just doesn't like them and calls them in and they get subject to a threat of a $10,000 fine. Now, to that point, 811 has been advertised and advertised and advertised about how easy it is to do. But it's not quite as simple as they make a phone call and you talk to an operator, tell them your location, tell them what you're doing, and then everything magically starts to happen. People start to locate the utilities. It's not quite that simple. If only time you ever do that is once in your life to dig one post hole in your backyard, you'll be wondering why you never heard from these other people, or they'll ask you'll have to go online and set up an account. It's not as simple as they like to advertise. So I would like to see some improvement. I don't know how you would do that. If you do this all the time, it's not so tough. Matter of fact, it's a lot easier than it used to be. But if you've never used them before and you want to do that one little thing, it's a bit of a headache. So, so I could see why people might be hesitant to do it. A couple other little notes I wrote here about, it was interesting who adjudicates these if there's damage to a utility by an excavator, and considering the number of cases they were talking about, I'm thinking some of these probably get handled without going back and forth. Maybe they get handled between the two parties. So I'd be interested to see really how long what happens with that kind of stuff. What else did I have? Agriculture incidents. When you work for a big pipeline company like we had, and pipelines go clear across the United States, every time there's a big incident like that, agriculture incidents do happen because of the pipelines out there. A lot of times, maybe as time goes by, the soil starts getting away and you start getting closer to that lack of depth as you're going on, and suddenly they decide to plow just a little bit deeper. Almost every one of these big calamity pipelines, there's a line marker right there and right there and right there. And it's all located and the accident happens anyway. I don't know, because you're so used to it, but most of the time when those big destructive events happen, it's been located, it's been marked, and it just happens. Now, as for mapping, Mr. Magagna mentioned that. Even in our company, the maps, I'm not going off the maps. In town, the super good system, for example, I'll use Black Hills Energy, used to be Source Gas and so on. They've done an excellent job over the years from what I've seen. But on the big transmission lines, and not the super ones like the great big giant ones, but out in the gas gathering, that stuff is a lot more difficult to keep track of because there's lines everywhere. Some are poly, some are steel. So a much bigger challenge. And I was curious about when you mentioned, Representative Larson mentioned in his bill about, what do you call it, the digging, I'll just say soft digging. So if there's no locates been presented to you, you call in locates and nothing's there. You get it all clear and you go out and you're just digging normal and you hit something. Well, am I responsible because I didn't soft dig for around that something I just hit that I didn't know was there? I would say not. So, but it happens. You'll get an all clear and there will be something there. Certainly everybody knows there's some utilities that never get located. We won't name which ones they are, but they're usually not your gas and they're not your water. To me, the more serious ones, right? So you might not have internet, but it's not uncommon. Nobody locates those. So anyway, just a few comments on that with my experience. And so
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen. And
Thank you. Any questions for Representative Riggins? Okay, thank you. All right, I believe, is that everyone in the room? I know we have about half a dozen that have signed up. Are there any hands up, Eve, that I don't want to call on people if they're just monitoring us.
We do. Right now online, we do have Jason Beggar from the Wyoming Association of Municipalities, and then there are a few others that I
Okay,
could admit
great.
afterwards.
All right. Please just let them in as we go. Good morning, Jason. Can you hear us?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
We can hear you fine. Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks. Jason Beggar here on behalf of the Wyoming Association of Municipalities. And I've got a few comments with regards to WHAM, but then also the Public Works Director from the City of Laramie has shared some remarks that I'll weave into there as well. So as you all know, WHAM represents 99 cities and towns across the state. Effective and timely infrastructure development is a priority for WHAM's membership, as it's necessary for economic development, housing, construction, and new operators. Similar to others, municipalities can be both operators and contractors. Some communities operate municipal utilities that are subject to locate laws and regulations. These larger communities oftentimes have dedicated utility locating divisions, whereas smaller communities, excuse me, are more likely to use a contract company to perform locate services. With that distinction, it's important to note, or important that contract locate companies are considered when assigning liability for locate issues. Fines and penalties are not much of a deterrent or a driver of outcomes for municipalities. The costs from interrupted utility services and repairs far exceed the cost of a fine. Customer service and timely and accurate locates are the priorities. WHAM supports the efforts of the committee to look at the issues and problems all parties are facing. As the committee moves forward on the issue, it's probably worthwhile looking at the system as a whole as to whether or not the one-call system has the resources and technology to meet current demands. Also, do the processes and statutory timelines align with today's construction schedules and methods? With that, I'd like to share some comments passed along by Brooks Webb, who's the Public Works Director for the City of Laramie. Last year, Laramie conducted over 4,000 locates and more than 4,800 the year before. Locating alone has effectively become full-time responsibility for 2 employees. Their concern lies mostly with out-of-state corporations, particularly fiber, electric, and gas, who hire out-of-state boring contractors. These crews operate in our community without the same level of accountability. They submit hundreds of locate requests, disrupt streets and sidewalks, and often leave before the consequences of their work are fully realized. We have seen repeated instances of damage to sewer mains and storm drainage systems. These impacts fall not on the contractors who cause them, but on local utilities and homeowners who must deal with the aftermath. The current statute requires that excavators request locates only for the work they intend to complete within 14 days. In practice, this is not what occurs. Large-scale contractors submit hundreds of locate requests at once, far exceeding what can be reasonably completed in that time frame. Our staff is still required to respond to each of these requests. Then, when the work is not completed within 14 days, as often is the case, the tickets are simply renewed. This forces our staff to return and remark the same areas repeatedly, creating a cycle that continues until the project is finished. This places a significant and ongoing burden on local resources and the community. The proposed changes do not address this imbalance. In fact, they risk giving even more flexibility to large out-of-state entities while increasing the strain on local utilities. I respectfully ask that we take time to refine these changes. We need solutions that ensure fairness, accountability, and protection for the communities that bear the long-term impacts of this work. To summarize, WAM is prepared to be a very effective or very active participant in this interim process and looks forward to working with the community on solutions. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Beggar? Good points. We appreciate your testimony. Thank you very much. Oh, we do have a question. Senator Barlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Beggar, having this subsequent locates, you think some kind of a fee structure for that subsequent locates or multiple locates after they've been done once or twice or something would be something of possibility? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Barlow, I think that may be a good way to approach it. As of right now, as was mentioned by a previous witness, that communities are required to do these locates within a specified amount of time, but there's no repercussions or no penalties for people who just flood the system. So, as of talking about fairness and accountability, that may be an avenue to explore for sure.
Hit their pocketbook. Okay, any further questions? Representative Wiley.
Thanks, Jason. So when these communities have these contracts out and these jobs are let and they have certain timelines and guidelines and stuff on there, are there anything in these contracts saying, if the municipalities can't get out ahead of it and have this logistically laid out there, that there's not going to be responsibility for not hitting those timelines and deadlines within that contract, that they're held to penalties and stuff most of the time?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Wiley, I'll admit that I'm not familiar enough with the actual specifics of the relationship between the utilities and the contractors, but would be happy to survey the members and get back to you with those answers.
Follow up.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Yeah, could you go ahead and do that? Because if we're going to look at it some kind of a penalty to try to get the logistics of these projects and stuff laid out and safely be able to complete them on a timely manner, maybe we should also forego the penalties associated with these projects that the lettings are doing with these communities.
Certainly.
Okay, Representative Larson.
So, Mr. Chairman, the last conversation between Representative Wiley and Jason were really the root of the original question. So if the contractor's delayed because they're not locating, and I think right now the only resolution is the contractor can take the municipality to court and file a claim and go through litigation, right? And so I think all of these conversations are valid, and that's why we're recommending putting the penalty phase back in the municipalities. The municipalities have a fair point on that. I think these are great conversations.
Okay, thank you. Senator Barlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I have no idea how this works in a municipality. So my query is, does the municipality actually have to offer a franchise to these entities that are coming and putting these linear infrastructure in? Seems like there's also potential for a contract understanding as this is occurring too between the municipality and whoever's installing this infrastructure. Is that relationship there or not? Thank you. Or is it different between different communities? Thank you.
I would imagine it's different depending on the community, but it's something they should certainly look at. Okay, is there any other questions for Mr. Beggar? Jason, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Eve, who's next?
Mr. Chairman, next up we have Kelly Carpenter, and she is online now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
We can. Welcome, Kelly.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kelly Carpenter, Wyoming Farm Bureau Federation. Thanks for the opportunity to provide comments virtually today due to the weather. Happy to report the Laramie Valley is covered in a lot of snow right now. But anyway, here today to provide support for keeping the agricultural exemption in place under the Wyoming Underground Facilities Notification Act. While our members do recognize that adding certain sideboards on the exemption could be beneficial and provide needed clarity. Our organization will also like to express our appreciation for having representation during some of the initial conversations on this topic. It has been a great collaborative effort thus far. We'd like to echo many of the comments offered by Mr. Magagna. Likewise, we'd like to emphasize the need for maintaining some balance when adding parameters to the ag exemption. And we'd like to emphasize keeping in mind the importance for flexibility with routine agricultural activities for our members. That said, we could preliminarily agree with looking at defining some of these activities, such as defining tilling depth to somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 to 24 inches, certain depths for repair and maintenance of fencing and water infrastructure, etc. Also, it's important to keep in mind as this discussion potentially continues, sometimes our members face emergency situations involving needing to augment fences and water infrastructure for the health and safety of their livestock, and that they must handle immediately and don't have the time or ability to make the call, leading to the need to keep the exemption in place and add common sense parameters going forward. So we appreciate the conversation and recognize the need to tighten the exemption. Look forward to continuing to be a part of the conversation, and we'll take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Carpenter? Okay, thank you, Kelly. Appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Eve?
Mr. Chairman, next up we have Abram Pierce, and he is online as well.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Yes, we can.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Abram Pierce. I'm the Director of Public Works for the town of Pinedale, Wyoming. So I think I represent municipalities a bit here and can maybe answer some of the questions you guys have had for Mr. Beggar and stuff in the past. But for my testimony today, I want to really focus on kind of what it looks like to be a small municipality or municipality in the system, because I think Representative Larson brings up some points that need to be fixed. Pinedale is a huge supporter of the Underground Facilities Act and 811. We take it very seriously. We work hard to hit our timelines. And we feel that the Underground Facilities Act truly is kind of the Wyoming way, right? Neighbors helping neighbors. And when we all work together, the job gets done, everybody goes home safe, we see our families, and we continue to live our lives in the great state of Wyoming. That being said, there's a couple points that causes concerns for us as a municipality, and that is the addition of fines. Some of the comments made has indicated that there's really no incentive for municipalities to hit the 48-hour timeline. To help describe kind of our concerns, in order for 811 to function properly, the financial burden lands on the owners, operators of the facilities. The town of Pinedale, we spend somewhere between 200 and 300 staff hours a year in our jurisdiction just doing locates. That equates to about $10,000 to $20,000 a year of financial burden on our facilities. That's not paid for by the excavators. We also operate as excavators in the 811 system occasionally, not as often as we do the owner operator, but it's free to all excavators to promote people using the 811. And we're fine with that. We don't have a problem with that, but there is a serious cost that comes to operators to do it. That being on top of that, we have tens of millions of dollars of infrastructure underground. And when it's hit, we certainly, if we mislocate, we take the risk of mislocating, or if we don't get our locates done, we expect that we will be fixing that, and that financial burden will be on us. We hit our locates, we ask that the contractor take there's that shared liability. And I think that's where Representative Larson's primary, number one point comes from. We're fine with that. There should be a shared responsibility to make sure that is done. We just don't feel like a fine really does anything to help promote. There's a lot of incentives behind a municipality to do a good job in our locating and to participate well within it. So I just wanted to make that known. Obviously, if there's any questions from the committee, Mr. Chairman, I would stand for those. But I did want to just kind of highlight how it works for us as a municipality.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Pierce? Senator Barlow.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So would you propose that all fines should be removed and there should be some other kind of approach like treble damages if you actually damage something? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Senator Barlow, to answer your question, As far as the fines for the contractors, obviously if we have issues, we've always been able to resolve them in the town of Pinedale. If they've dug without a locate, we do have the complaint process. If they cause damage that we can go through 811, we've never had to go through a formal process. I'm sure those do happen in the state. There still may be need behind that. Obviously, there's a loss of public safety if there's damages done underground, and there probably needs to be some legal way to resolve that. However, if the town of Pinedale does not complete our locates within our 48-hour notice, me as the director of public works, I would go to the town council and I would explain to them that the neglect of my department, we fell short and we are financially obligated to repair that. That is not a contractor's fault. Does that answer your question, Senator Barlow?
Yes, it does. Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Appreciate your testimony this morning.
Yep, you're welcome.
Do we have anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, we do. We have Keith Kennedy on the line.
Okay, would you please let in Mr. Kennedy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Keith Kennedy on behalf of Wyoming Ag Business Association, as well as Crop Improvement and the Wheat Growers. We would also support some more specificity there as far as depth of tillage. This is actually an old friend. I had actually helped on the ag exemption when that was placed into this statute some time ago, and that seems to be something very reasonable, 18 to 24 inches. The one thing that I would point out with crop agriculture and how that differs from excavation, these are very often recurring operations that may happen several times through the year, whether that is some sort of an actual tillage operation, or in the case of ag business, using a soil probe all over the field, automated, to take soil samples for fertility recommendations. And one thing that I would encourage the committee to consider in crop agriculture in particular is some sort of a more permanent locate. In other words, if I'm regularly tilling a field, soil probing, is there a way that there could be a GIS locate done so that I would have a permanent record when I mapped and or used my precision agriculture equipment, so that it wouldn't be necessary. And part of that is just the timing. Some of these operations may very well need to take place depending on weather. And if I had called for a locate 48 hours ago, I probably couldn't do my field work within the timeline given some precip here lately. So with that, I'd welcome your questions and look forward to the continued conversation.
Thank you. No, he doesn't, well, okay. Any questions for Mr. Kennedy? Okay, well, thank you for your testimony. Eve, anybody else? Okay, great. So I'll close public testimony. Committee, what's your pleasure? Pardon? Senator Kolb, did you have something?
Yeah, not to take away from, I guess, Representative Larson, but I'd move that we move forward with statutory changes as it relates to Wyoming Underground Facilities Notification Act.
Okay. Okay, moved by Senator Kolb, seconded by Representative Nicholas, for us to proceed with a bill draft based on the recommendations of the outline that we've been given. And then we can review that draft and make changes at the next meeting. Senator Kolb, do you have some comment?
I did not. I was
okay.
Just getting ready. Thank you.
Okay, any questions, comments before we take a vote? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor for a bill draft, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so we'll have a bill draft next time to consider. So that wraps up our last topic. I am going to open the floor for public comment. If anybody would like to comment on this topic or any previous topic, I know there's there's folks that came here that, since we had an accelerated schedule today, didn't get to testify, so now's your chance. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Transportation Committee, Military Affairs Committee. It's a pleasure to be here. We'll give you an updated report. I'm David Swindelli, your Executive Director of the Wyoming Retirement System. WRS is the agency that administers public pension benefits for all public employees in the state of Wyoming, including state employees, city, towns, and counties. K through 12 education is actually our largest group. We have more than $13 billion in assets. We have 36,000 pensioners. We have 41,000 active members in the system. To my left and your right is our Chief Benefit Officer, Samantha Mills. Samantha administers these programs. She oversees the pension benefits section, including death and disability retirements, which is the topic that we presented to this committee. We don't get a chance very much to present to this committee. Most of our work is done with the Appropriations Committee. But every once in a while, we do get before this committee, Mr. Chairman. Usually it has to do with the Warden and Patrol pension plan for highway patrol officers. It's the lash up with YDOT that brings it to this committee. There's actually one more small plan that we administer that we don't think about too much, but it's kind of become a current situation, and that's called the Guard Fire Plan. It's our smallest plan. It has $13 million in assets, so it's like 1/10 of 1%. It has only 40 active members, 21 pensioners. Sam, you don't do a lot with this plan. It just doesn't come up very frequently, but there is a chance here, and for the committee, you can relax. Nothing's wrong, nothing's broken, but there might be a chance to make a small improvement at very little or almost no cost. Here's the situation with this plan. As we put in our material to you, there's a pre-retirement death and disability provisions in most pension plans. In the public employee plan, the situation that Samantha and I are in, for example, there is a disability benefit. It's based upon your years of service. You have to serve 10 years in order to get it. And it really amounts to whatever your retirement benefit would be if we calculate it today as date of disability, you can draw that without any early retirement penalty, even if you're younger than age 60 or 65. The death benefit is also kind of based upon years of service. We take the employee's contributions up to that point with interest, and then we double them to kind of represent the employer's contribution, and that's a one-time lump sum death benefit to the estate or the designated beneficiary. We process some of those every year. In the public employee plan, just so you know, last year we processed 39 of them. So not really one a week, but getting maybe 3 a month, something like that. And if you have 10 years of service, you wind up with an account balance of about $50,000. We double it. We will pay $100,000 to that estate. It's a good life insurance benefit that is at low cost, and it's included as part of the pension. We don't do a lot of those, but some. Air Guard Fire, I don't think we haven't paid any death benefits. It's a small plan. It's very rare. Public safety plans like the Warden and Patrol plan, like the Guard Fire plan, typically have a little different situation. As you can see in the public employee plan, you have to have a little bit of time in service in order to have a very good benefit. Folks that are, rookies don't have much in an account balance, and they haven't earned much of a retirement benefit to that point. So public safety plans, because of the somewhat hazardous nature of the job, typically have a little different provisions. It's usually based on a percentage of your current wage, because these things could happen to a rookie, and we want to provide a benefit to the family and to have a good recruiting and retention situation that recognizes that. So as we have looked at the Guard Fire Plan, because it came up in House Bill 34 this year, which added forestry firefighters to that plan, because we have new firefighters coming online that we haven't had before. The status quo membership in that plan is you needed to be an employee of a National Guard unit engaged in crash rescue firefighting. So it's basically crash rescue at the Cheyenne Airport and out at Guernsey training area. We added, that was the best plan to put these folks in. But as we looked at it, we did see that it was kind of unusual. It had all the appropriate benefit structure that is correct. It had a percentage of wages for a disability benefit. It was 65% of wages. But it was silent on the death benefit. And legally, this is structured as a component of the Wyoming Retirement Act. So the default is they get the same death benefit that Samantha and I have. And that means it's okay. I mean, we're not complaining. But it doesn't work well for rookies. And it really should have. So I tasked our actuaries to take a look at it. What would it cost to put something in more material based on wages? And I had them look at the law enforcement plan. I had them look at Fire B. Fire B, it pays a 50% of wage benefit. And it's a good benefit because it's death for any cause. It could be a cancer. It could be on the job, but it could be cancer. It could be your motorcycle accident, all the things that happen. And that makes it a really good benefit, and it's good for recruiting and good for retention. And our forestry department has got to go try to hire some folks out of BLM and so on to fill these fire modules. So anyway, they looked at it, and like some of these things, it's just such a low percentage event, it doesn't change the plan's liabilities very much. Mr. Chairman, this plan is well-funded. It's getting better. It's 86% actuarially. It's 94% on a market value basis. And that's these funding ratios. It's the ratio of your assets to your liabilities. We look at it two ways. We look at it on market value, which is just a snapshot in time. We also look at it on an actuarial basis. We smooth in the investment stuff over 5 years so you don't get too excited about a really good year nor too depressed about a losing year. We look at both of those things. It would only add, this plan has liabilities of $14,231,000. To add an appropriate benefit, depending upon what it was, would only add a few $1,000s in liabilities. So it would reduce the funding ratio by 1/10, but it wouldn't have any impact on rates. And at some point, it just is almost within measurement error. That's what Paul Wood told me. He doesn't like to admit that. He's the actuary. There's no measurement error in actuarial science. Yes, there is. And he knows that. So there's a chance if this committee is willing to take it up to direct LSO to create some legislation to add a designated death benefit, pre-retirement death benefit for firefighter members in the Wyoming Retirement Act. We would suggest to be commensurate with that in Fire B. And the only reason for that is you want firefighters to kind of be together. There are mutual aid situations. If you had a C-130 go down at the Cheyenne Airport, you bet crash rescue, Air Guard's going to be first on response, but it won't be very long before the city of Cheyenne shows up with their Fire B folks. And what if there was a secondary explosion? We lost 2 firefighters. I think the legislature would want those families to be treated in a similar fashion. So that was my thought there. With that, Mr. Chairman, we'll stand for any questions, and pleasure to be here. Road report for folks that are interested in Cheyenne. We were clear, Samantha, once we got past really the Little Bear exit and certainly by Chugwater. But it was snowing pretty hard in Cheyenne. I'm pleased to report that the YDOT crews were on the job clearing the sidebars of all the slush. We had several snowplows out that we passed, and hopefully we'll get back to Cheyenne. If not, we'll have a pleasant evening in Douglas or something. I don't know.
Well, thank you, Mr. Swindell. Committee, any questions? Yeah, sorry we jumped the gun on you today, but we want to get the committee and certainly our staff back safely. So anyhow, no questions? Thank you so much for making the effort to come up and speak with it. Oh, Ms. Mills, anything from you? Okay. Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate it. So committee, any final thoughts? Any other directives that the committee would like to, that we haven't already given the staff? Senator Anderson.
Mr. Chairman, do we want to have the staff come forth with a proposed bill for next meeting on this pension retirement system?
We already have that.
Oh, you do? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
We took care of that earlier.
Okay, thank
We
you.
just took testimony because we didn't want them to come all the way up here and not be able to say something.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and we needed that weather report. Yeah. The good co-chairman here has been looking at the cams. And so far it doesn't look so bad. I'm glad we accelerated this meeting today, though. Any final comments? Co-chairman Brown.
Mr. Chairman, just based off of the conversation that we had with the military department today, with the two interim topics that they had requested that they're not going to be pursuing any further, there's a pretty high likelihood that we will condense our meeting, our next meeting in Evanston, to a single day meeting. We will work with staff to ensure that we actually have enough time in that, but that will also mean that it will probably be a long day. Just because we've got 3 big bill requests that have come through on this, that we're going to be working through, and we'll need the due diligence and time to do those. But just kind of give everybody a heads up on that I think it's September meeting, right?
It's August.
August, okay.
So, and it will be the Friday of the day because YDOT will be having meetings on the 19th and 20th in Evanston. That's why we located in Evanston, so they'll already be there. So Military Day was going to be the 20th. So we will be meeting, if we condense it to one day, which I think we will, it will be on that Friday, the 21st, I believe the date is. And again, all the reports are out of the way, so it's a day of working bills. So
August,
yeah.
So, and that'll be fresh after Election Day. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
with that, Mr. Chairman, that's all I had.
Okay, staff, any parting comments for today? Anything on your minds? Okay, well, committee, thank you for a good meeting. I'm glad we accelerated this day. The meeting is adjourned.
I got her.